Chapter 1178. Tan Xiu secretly sneered inwardly, but he deliberately showed an angry look on the surface and said in a deep voice, "I'll reconsider it as long as you can find the bastard who shot the video. Ruining the reputation of my magnificent Tang Corp and exposing the agreement between us is simply outrageous." Yezek looked ecstatic. He was sure that he could find the bastard who shot the video. As long as someone shot the video, there would definitely be some clues left behind. What were werewolves good at? Naturally, they were good at tracking, and they could get some unexpected results just by smelling the scent. Of course, he didn't make such a reckless decision because he still had a card up his sleeve, which was to buy intel. The intel of the Darkwind organization was absolutely terrifying. If he really couldn't find the person who shot the video, then he would buy it from the Darkwind organization. A few minutes later, Yezek left the magnificent Tang Corp's HQ with satisfaction. He didn't notice that at the window of the conference room where he had just met with Tan Xiu was watching him leave with a sneer on his face. At 10 p.m., when Tan Xiu just returned to Southgate Town, he saw his mother, Su Lingyun, with Andy holding her arm. The two of them were chatting happily while walking toward the villa complex. Furthermore, they were carrying a lot of things in their hands as if they had just finished shopping. Honk, honk. After blowing the horn, Tan Xiu parked the car near them. He opened the door and smilingly said, "I heard you went to the imperial capital, Mom. When did you come back?" Upon seeing Tan Xiu, Su Lingyun immediately looked pleasantly surprised and smilingly said, "I heard you went back to Star City, so I hurried back and only arrived in the evening. I wanted to call you, but I bumped into Andy. She said that you went to the magnificent Tang Corp and seemed to be busy, so I didn't call you. Anyways, Xiu, you should be staying in Star City for some time this time, right?" "I'll be staying in Star City for a while if there's no accident," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "Get in the car, Mom, Andy." "All right." After Su Lingyun and Andy got into the car, they soon arrived home. However, before the mother and son could speak more than a few words, a woman who was responsible for guarding Southgate Town and protecting his mother quickly rushed to the living room. "What did you say? Duan Mulin?" Tan Xiu raised his eyebrows and looked a little surprised. Although he had guessed that Duan Mulin would come to find him, he didn't expect him to come so soon. It had only been a few hours since the video was released. Could it be that Duan Mulin was in Star City, or in a nearby city? Immediately after, Tan Xiu personally went out to greet him. Upon seeing Duan Mulin coming with 2 bottles of God's nectar, he immediately forced a smile and said, "Senior Duanmu, why did you bring wine when you came?" "I don't have a lot of other things here, but the God's nectar can definitely fill your stomach. I know you have a lot of God's nectar here. Who told this wine to be produced by your family?" Duan Mulin smilingly said, "But I'm afraid I won't have a supper tonight if I don't bring some wine here." Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing. After inviting Duan Mulin to the villa, he waited for his mother, Su Lingyun, to exchange greetings with Duan Mulin, and then hurried to the kitchen. He and Duan Mulin then went to the study room on the 2nd floor. "Tell me, what did you do this time, kid?" Duan Mulin sat on the sofa and looked at Tan Xiu with a faint smile. Tan Xiu rubbed his hands and grinned. "Hee, it seems I can't escape your eyes no matter what I do, Senior Duanmu. It's nothing serious, actually. It's just that my friend, Long Jingyu, was seriously injured by the Harbo Group's people from the M country. I did something in the middle, but I won't tell you the details. In short, they fought. The Harbo Group's people suffered heavy losses, and the other companies are also having a hard time. I think you should be aware of what happened in Star City with your ability, Senior Duanmu, right? I know a bit about it, but I don't know what will happen next," said Duan Mulin with a smile. "The reason you came to Star City in person should be because of the appearance of the werewolf in that video, Senior Duanmu," said Tan Xiu. "I can tell you without reservation that the Stygian Club is behind the Harbo Group and the Dandelion Group, whereas the Pyramid is behind the other company. Both of them are in conflict, and it may even be a conflict between the 3 forces, so I decided to add fuel to the fire and make these forces fight each other all over the world." Duan Mulin was shaken inwardly and asked in a deep voice, "What happened in China?" "The matter in China has come to an end." Tan Xiu shook his head. Duan Mulin immediately felt relieved after hearing it. But then, he looked curious and asked, "You want the Stygian Club and the Pyramid to fight? For what? Don't you think that the weakening of foreign forces will only bring benefits to our country, Senior Duanmu?" asked Tan Xiao calmly. "I can't see any benefits or disadvantages, but I can see that you must have some purpose behind it." Duan Mulin let out a faint smile. "Can you tell me about it to satisfy my curiosity?" Tan Xiao pondered for a while and said, "Senior Duanmu, the Stygian Club has been committing all kinds of crimes for so many years and has committed countless crimes that have angered both humans and gods. They also have a deep grudge against my Tang sect. I'll get rid of this organization if I get the chance. At the very least, many people will suffer less from their persecution. I'm afraid that the pyramid isn't a good organization since there are all kinds of cultivators in it. I'll need to compete with them if I want to get more resources. Hence, I won't take the initiative to attack them, but I'll fan the flames and make them fight each other. It'll be interesting if I can get some benefits from it. Do you have any goals for the future, Tan Xiao?" Duan Mulin squinted his eyes and asked. Tan Xiao straightly got up from the sofa and stood in front of Duan Mulin. He cupped his fists and said, "Senior Duanmu, I'm afraid it won't be a problem for you to live for another 100 years given your strength. My goal is to become an immortal and ascend to the immortal world. This is the ultimate pursuit of us cultivators. I'm just saying if I and the Tang sect's disciples ascend to the immortal world decades later, I'll need your help to take care of my family and friends on Earth." Duan Mulin abruptly got up with incredulity in his eyes. "Ascend to become an immortal? Are you kidding me, Tan Xiao? Even if your cultivation speed is very fast, it's impossible for you to ascend to the immortal world in a few decades, no? Even if you can, you'll ascend to the immortal world by yourself. Do you think you can take away all the cultivators of the Tang sect?" "I can," replied Tan Xiao in a deep voice. Duan Mulin shuddered and clenched his fists instantly. Then he hurriedly asked, "Tan Xiao, I may not be a cultivator, but I do have some skills. Since you can take the Tang sect's disciples to ascend to the immortal world, then, can you take me too?" "Are you sure?" asked Tan Xiao with a strange expression. "I'm 100% sure." Duan Mulin firmly nodded. "You're the director of the Special Abilities Bureau, a heavyweight figure indispensable to the country. Can you really let go of the people and things left on Earth if you leave with me?" asked Tang Xiao. "Also, you must be at least at the spirit formation stage if you want to ascend to the immortal world with me. Given your current strength, let alone a spirit formation stage expert, you can't even compare to a golden core stage expert, can you?" Duan Mulin's expression turned stiff. Then he forced a wry smile and nodded. "I can let go of the people and things on Earth. I'm already very old after all, and there won't be many people and things I'll miss in a few decades. But it's the cultivation requirement that stumps me." Tan Xiao nodded and smilingly said, "That's why you should put away your worries and do what you need to do to enjoy your old age." "Something's not right," Duan Mulin suddenly interjected. "Something's not right, Tan Xiao. As far as I know, most of the Tang sect's disciples are at the foundation establishment stage. There's still the golden core stage and the nascent soul stage to break through from the foundation establishment stage to the spirit formation stage. I believe that your cultivation speed is very fast, but their cultivation speed shouldn't be that fast, right? If they can't break through to the spirit formation stage by then, does that mean they can't ascend to the immortal world with you?" "Senior Duanmu, this is the main reason why I schemed against the Stygian Club, the pyramid and the other forces in the dark," said Tan Xiao. "I want to snatch resources from them. Only with huge resources as my backing can my people keep breaking through, and eventually break through to the spirit formation stage. Of course, if they haven't broken through to the spirit formation stage by the time I ascend to the immortal world, they won't be able to leave with me." Duan Mulin's eyes lit up. Tan Xiao's explanation suddenly gave him hope and he hurriedly said, "Can I become a cultivator, Tan Xiao? I'm willing to start from scratch." "That's not a problem, of course." Tan Xiao nodded. "It's just that you're a bit old, and it'll be very difficult for you to break through to the spirit formation stage. Unless what?" asked Duan Mulin hurriedly. Unless you can get a lot of cultivation resources and completely pile them up, said Tan Xiu. But the drawback is also very serious. It's almost impossible for you to break through in the future. Duan Mulin gritted his teeth and said, I really want to see the legendary Immortal world. I didn't dare to imagine it before, but I believe you won't lie to me. So I'll be satisfied even if I can break through to the spirit formation stage. After all, I'll be countless times stronger than I am now. I can teach you a cultivation technique, but you must give me a guarantee that you can only cultivate it by yourself and not give it to others, said Tan Xiu. I give you my word, replied Duan Mulin with a straight face. Tan Xiu slowly nodded. After sitting back on the sofa, he lit a cigarette and took a few deep puffs. Then he said, we'll discuss the specific details later. Let's talk about the matter at hand now. Chapter 1179. Late at night, Duan Mulin left Southgate Town with a complicated mood. He needed time to digest the news he got from Tan Xiu, and he was too lazy to care about what was happening in Star City. Ever since he met Tan Xiu, he found that Tan Xiu always had a bottom line no matter what he did. At the very least, what he did was not harmful to the country. That was enough. Tan Xiu rushed to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital early the next morning. Long Zhengyu hadn't woken up yet, so Tan Xiu gave him a checkup and confirmed that his physical functions were gradually recovering and his injuries were no longer a hindrance. Only then did he feel relieved. Afterward, when he arrived at the magnificent Tang Corporation, he issued a series of orders, one of which was to send people to various countries in the world to investigate the background of the multinational companies that came to Star City. 3 days later, when Tan Xiu contacted Yezek and asked him for the results of the investigation, Yezek told him that he hadn't found the person who secretly shot the video. Immediately, Tan Xiu showed his anger and directly told Yezek that he didn't need to investigate this matter, and that he would find a way to investigate it. He also told Yezek that the magnificent Tang Corporation would never cooperate with the Dandelion Company again. Immediately after, Tan Xiu held a plenary meeting and invited all the heads of the companies from all over the world to the magnificent Tang Corporation. In the large conference room that could accommodate thousands of people, the heads of all the companies sat quietly in the audience, waiting for Tan Xiu's arrival. No one talked or made any noise, and the atmosphere was very heavy and tranquil. Clap! The conference room's door was pushed open as 8 burly men lined up in 2 teams and quickly entered the venue. Then, accompanied by Kongxia, Tan Xiu came to the podium. His cold eyes swept over the crowd and slowly said, Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the magnificent Tang Corporation. Clap, clap, clap. Warm applause sounded until Tan Xiu raised his hands, and the applause gradually disappeared. Tan Xiu continued, I know the purpose of your visit to China. I also know that you're optimistic about my magnificent Tang Corporation, and want to cooperate with me. Originally, I was prepared to cooperate with some of your companies because each of your companies is very powerful. However, you must have heard about the recent events in Star City. My best friend, Long Zhengyu, the young master of the Long Group, was seriously injured by someone in his own territory, and is still in a coma. I'm very angry, but I must suppress my anger because the people who injured him are the same as you. They are all friends of my magnificent Tang Corp, and they came from my company. However, thanks to my efforts, I managed to save the perpetrator from the Harbo Group. I even went to the Long family with William, the person in charge of the Harbo Group. I tried my best to persuade him to release the perpetrator. I originally thought that this matter would end here. But, just a few days ago, a total of 4 people in charge of 4 companies led a group of martial artists under them, and engaged in a tragic fight. Even in a hotel like the Long's dining hall, 5 or 6 corpses were found. I want to ask you something. Do they still dare to cause such a big incident in Star City after my magnificent Tang Corp's announcement? Do they think that my company's honor is worthless? Do they turn a deaf ear to Tan Xiu's words? As Tan Xiu spoke up to the anger in his eyes turned more intense. He clenched his fists and fiercely slammed the table and shouted, I'm very angry because the Chinese government is exerting pressure on us. They want us to pay attention to the social stability of Star City and not cooperate with those thieves and thieves. Now, I want to tell you something solemnly. The magnificent Tang Corp will not cooperate with any foreign companies for the time being. I won't cooperate with you even if you put a mountain of gold and silver in front of me. As his voice faded away, all the people in charge of the venue abruptly got up at this moment with disbelief on their faces. Many of them even looked angry. Boss Tang, this matter has nothing to do with us. You can't directly deny us. Ever since we came to China and Star City, we've always respected the laws of your country and went all out to prepare for the cooperation with the magnificent Tang Corporation. Mr. Tang, those 4 companies in Country M are indeed outrageous. They turned a deaf ear to your words and should be punished. The magnificent Tang Corp is right not to cooperate with them, but we've done nothing wrong. But we haven't done anything wrong. All our energy is focused on your magnificent Tang Corporation. So, please take back what you just said and give us a chance. I believe that my conditions will definitely satisfy you. Boss Tang, we're businessmen. Don't be impulsive. We'll make a fortune together if we cooperate. You don't need to pay attention to those who don't abide by the rules. Please take back what you just said, Boss Tang. We really came with full sincerity. Tang. Many people in charge spoke with anticipation. Tan Xiu calmly listened to them and then indifferently said, "How can I believe you? Do I dare to believe you? The magnificent Tang Corp is now under the pressure of the country, so I hope you can understand. The magnificent Tang Corp will not cooperate with any company for the time being. We need to make some adjustments and make a new plan. So, please go back first and wait for our decision. Of course, we'll select a company from among you after we've confirmed it, and then send someone to discuss the cooperation with you." The meeting quickly ended. However, Tan Xiu's reason was too sufficient. Even though they were very dissatisfied, they didn't dare to jump out and oppose Tan Xiu at this time. Even those people were wise enough to shut their mouths. Afterward, all the people in charge jointly held a banquet in the Long's dining hall and invited Tan Xiu to attend. Tan Xiu didn't refuse at this time and drank and chatted merrily with those people in charge, but he didn't mention the cooperation. Thus, in the next few days, the people in charge of the companies from all over the world led their teams and left. For a time, the entire Star City calmed down. The people in charge of the companies from all over the world didn't know that right after they left, Tan Xiu had ordered the magnificent Tang Corp's people to secretly rush to various countries and begin to formally investigate the background of those companies. More than a month's worth of information was constantly transmitted back to Tan Xiu, Kong Xia, and the other senior executives of the magnificent Tang Corp to study them. China was peaceful, but thousands of miles away in Country M was surging with undercurrents. Whether it was the Harbo Group's people, the Dandelion Group's people, or the people from several other companies, the big shots behind them had issued orders to attack the enemy openly and covertly. The battle hidden in the dark was cruel and tragic. Tan Xiu was in Star City, but he kept receiving intelligence that the Stygian Club and Pyramid had been involved in dozens of battles in just over a month. Furthermore, what surprised Tan Xiu was that the world's second largest organization, the Crusader Consortium, was also involved in it. They even secretly cooperated with Pyramid and brought great losses to the Stygian Club. While Tan Xiu was presiding over Star City, an order was passed to the Tang sect's disciples who were dormant in Country M. Immediately, nearly 100 experts of the Tang sect began a series of plans, adding fuel to the fire, framing people, all kinds of seemingly despicable and shameless means, but they were extremely effective. In the end, the friction between the three forces became more intense, and the most serious battle resulted in hundreds of deaths and thousands of injuries. During this period, a piece of news flew to every corner of the world as though it had wings. Even some remote small countries received the news that the magnificent Tang Corporation and Grand Fortune Jewelry would jointly hold a super auction and hold an unprecedentedly huge auction in Shanghai on December 1st. Anyone and any force could participate in the auction, but the only requirement was that the funds they could mobilize must be at least 9 digits. Shortly after, another piece of news came out that there were too many tycoons who had connections with the magnificent Tang Corporation and Grand Fortune Jewelry, so the threshold was raised. Anyone who wanted to participate in the unprecedented auction must have at least 300 million yuan. As for the people and forces who registered in advance, the threshold was still the original 100 million yuan. On November 20th, Tan Xiu returned to Shanghai. Since the auction would be held soon, Tan Xiu personally sent invitations to some of his business friends in China. There was no threshold for those who met Tan Xiu's requirements. However, most of those people had more than billions of yuan in wealth. Shanghai. Inside a luxurious villa in Blue Star Villa complex, Tang Xiu looked at Andy, who wore an innocent face and behaved like a little baby. He rubbed his temples with a headache. Sitting on the sofa opposite Andy was Miss Mu Weining. Sitting on the other side was Ouyang Lulu with her legs crossed and a sneer on her face. You guys chat. I still have something to do." Tan Xiu really didn't want to stay here any longer. He left the Blue Star Villa complex at a very fast speed as though he was fleeing for his life. Only then did he secretly feel relieved. He believed that the 3 women in his family wouldn't fight. Therefore, he just let them be no matter how noisy they were. "Where am I going?" Tan Xiu stood at the entrance of the Blue Star Villa complex and looked at the bustling street with a blank expression. For a time, he found that he had nowhere to go. Ring, 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 a melodious ringtone sounded, causing Tan Xiu to take it out in an instant. He looked at the caller ID and found that it was Jin Xingkue. "What's up, brother Jin?" Tan Xiu directly asked after picking up the phone. "Brother Tang, I heard that you've returned to Shanghai, so I called you to ask if you have time to meet up and have a drink with me," said Jin Xingkue with a smile. "Let's continue our big break today. I'm looking for monthly votes." Chapter 1180. Tan Xiu, who had nothing to do at the moment, naturally agreed when he received Jin Xingkue's call. His cheerful attitude made Jin Xingkue absent-minded. After agreeing on the place, Tan Xiu hurriedly drove and arrived at a bar near Nanjing Road without much effort. There was no business in the bar since it was in the afternoon. No one even greeted Tan Xiu when he arrived. Tan Xiu glanced around and saw Jin Xingkue sitting in the corner. "Brother Jin, how come you're so leisurely and elegant today?" Tan Xiu walked over with a smile and asked after taking a seat across him. "The first phase of our project has been completed, and the next phase is the second phase," said Jin Xingkue with a smile. "Also, the opening ceremony will be held in half a month's time. I hope you can come and shake the situation if you're free at that time so that we can have a good start." "What's the specific date?" asked Tan Xiu calmly. "December 1st, said Jin Xingkue. Tan Xiu furrowed his brows and asked, "Is the property we're building not easy to sell?" "It's not that it's not easy to sell, but it's too easy to sell." Jin Xingkue waved his hand. Ever since the design was exposed, coupled with the floor plan and other supporting facilities, it has won the pursuit of countless people. So far, at least hundreds of people who want to buy our property have contacted me, hoping that I can give them a good layout, a good floor, and a good location. If that's the case, then there's no need for me to shake the scene. Tan Xiu smiled and said, "I'm going to attend the auction on December 1st, so I won't have time to attend the opening ceremony." Jin Xingkue looked curious and asked, "I heard that the Genesis auction in Shanghai is jointly organized by the magnificent Tang Corporation and Grand Fortune Jewelry. Is this true?" "That's right." Tan Xiu nodded. Jin Xingkue rubbed his hands and grinned. "Brother Tang, I may have received a reply that I'm eligible to participate in the Genesis auction, but the position I'll get will be very remote. After all, I'm not ranked in the circle of local tycoons in the world. Why don't you open the back door for me and get me a good seat?" Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, "I've reserved 10 seats in advance. At that time, not only you, but also brother Gu Changmin and brother Zhang Yueming will also get good seats. Don't worry." Jin Xingkue gave him a thumbs up and praised, "Brother Tang, you're so frank and straightforward. Let me toast you a cup." Tan Xiu faintly smiled. Just as he drank the wine, his mobile rang. When he took it out and looked at the caller ID, he immediately picked it up and said with a smile, "Oldly, it's rare for you to take the initiative to call me. What's the matter?" "Tan Xiu, your magnificent Tang Corporation will be participating in the Genesis auction, right?" Li Jiren's voice came from the phone. Tan Xiao smiled and said, "That's right, there is." Li Jiren laughed aloud and said, "Can I ask in advance what good things will be in the auction? Is there anything I can use?" Upon hearing this, Tan Xiao immediately understood Li Jiren's thoughts. The man was probably thinking about the medicinal pills in his hand. After pondering for a moment, Tan Xiao said, "There is. The quantity is not big, but the effect is excellent and the price is also very expensive. Can you leave a seat for me, Tan Xiao?" Li Jiren was overjoyed. "I'll definitely attend the Genesis auction on December 1st. Contact Hao Lei later, old Li," said Tan Xiao. "Send someone to transfer 1 million yuan to the Genesis auction house's public account. I'll tell her to reserve a seat for you." Li Jiren didn't care about the 1 million yuan ticket fee and smilingly said, "I'll send someone to handle it right away. See you on December 1st, Tan Xiao." Alright. Tan Xiao hung up the phone and dialed Hao Lei's number in front of Jin Xingkui. After Hao Lei picked up the call, he said in a deep voice, "Immediately announce the public account of the Genesis auction house. Every guest who attends the first Genesis auction house on December 1st must pay 1 million yuan for the ticket. Since we're going to set the threshold, we must set it to the highest level. Immediately notify all channels to publicize this news." "Understood," Hao Lei replied concisely. "I'll personally arrange the finale item of the auction," said Tan Xiao again. "I'll go to the Genesis auction house in the evening and tell you what it is then." After saying that, Tan Xiao directly hung up the phone and looked at Jin Xingkui, saying, "Your wine is worth 1 million yuan for the ticket. But don't talk nonsense. I still want to earn some money from the ticket." Upon hearing this, Jin Xingkui immediately felt that he had gained a lot of face. He raised his glass again and said, "Don't worry, Brother Tang. Jin Xingkui's mouth is very tight. Anyways, who's that old Li who just called you? Can you reserve a seat for him with just a phone call?" "Hong Kong's Li Jiren," said Tan Xiao with a smile. Jin Xingkui's expression slightly changed and admiration was revealed in his eyes. When he first met Tan Xiao, he never thought that Tan Xiao would be so powerful. Not only did Tan Xiao have an incomparably honorable status, but he also had super abilities and a wide network of contacts that made him feel ashamed. Li Jiren. He was once the richest business tycoon in China, and was absolutely a legend in the hearts of countless Chinese people. Yet, Tan Xiao was able to have an extraordinary friendship with him. This made Jin Xingkui feel that he had been living like a dog for the past few decades. The wine continued. Tan Xiao and Jin Xingkui drank until the evening. Jin Xingkui wanted to spend more time with Tan Xiao, while Tan Xiao just wanted to have something to do to kill time. Evening. Tan Xiao refused Jin Xingkui's other programs and drove to the Genesis auction house. Because Tan Xiao ordered that the newly established auction house must be of a high grade and scale, Hao Lei spent a lot of money to buy a 4-story Western-style building on the most prosperous riverside in Shanghai. Just this 4-story Western-style building covering an area of nearly 10,000 square meters had cost her billions from Tan Xiao. The golden plaque was 10 meters long and 4 meters wide. The golden characters were written in bold and vigorous calligraphy. It was written by Tan Xiao himself, and then made by the person in charge of Mu Weiniang's company who was best at making plaques. Just this plaque alone was worth hundreds of thousands of yuan. "Hello, we haven't opened for business yet. Is there anything I can help you with?" As soon as Tan Xiao arrived at the entrance of the Genesis auction house, he was stopped by 4 security guards in black suits. They were polite on the surface, but their eyes were full of vigilance. It was as if they would attack Tan Xiao if he made any rash moves. "I'm looking for Hao Lei." It wasn't the first time that Tan Xiao was stopped by security guards outside his company's gate, so he had long been accustomed to it and replied with a smile. "Do you have an appointment with Chief Hao?" asked the head security guard. "Or do you have anything to say? We'll help you convey it. Chief Hao will naturally meet you if she has time." "I'm Tan Xiao," Tan Xiao said with a smile. "Tan Xiao?" The 4 security guards frowned at the same time. But after 4 or 5 seconds, the head security guard's expression suddenly changed. He quickly grabbed his mobile phone and searched the internet. He found some information about Tan Xiao on the internet. After a short comparison, His expression turned to fear and trepidation. He bowed and said, "We didn't know it was you, boss. We're really sorry for what just happened." Tan Xiu patted his shoulder and smilingly said, "Your attitude is very good and responsible. I'll tell Hao Lei later that your salary will be increased by 30% since I'm satisfied with your performance. All right, you continue your duty. I'll go upstairs first." Yes. Thank you, boss," said the head security guard excitedly. After watching Tan Xiu leave, he fiercely clenched his fists and vigorously waved them in the air. Then he excitedly said, "I didn't expect to finally see a real Buddha. It's the big boss. We actually got the appreciation from the big boss. It's really a great honor." The other 3 security guards also reacted. Each of them looked excited as they passed on the news of Tan Xiu's arrival through their walkie-talkies. They also told all the security brothers about Tan Xiu's promise just now. Immediately, nearly 2/3 of the security guards in the entire Genesis auction house cheered. On the 3rd floor of the Genesis auction house, Hao Lei quickly flipped through the documents in her hands. The 3 subordinates in front of her were still holding the documents, waiting for her signature. She was very busy. Hao Lei had never been so busy before. Even when she was the general manager of the Grand Fortune Jewelry, it couldn't be compared to her current state. Since this morning, apart from drinking a few cups of water and coffee, she didn't even have time to eat anything. Knock, knock. The door was knocked and Tan Xiu came in from the outside. He looked at the several people in the office and smilingly said, "Are you busy?" Hao Lei got up from the boss's chair and gave her 3 subordinates some instructions. After they put down the documents and left, she said with a tired face, "Can you find someone to help me, boss? I'm too busy. I'm so busy that my feet can't even touch the ground. And I'm so hungry that my chest is sticking to my back." "You haven't had dinner yet?" Tan Xiu was surprised. "I haven't had breakfast and lunch yet." Hao Lei forced a smile. Tan Xiu took out his mobile phone and dialed the number of the Everlasting Feast Hall's person in charge in Shanghai. He asked the Everlasting Feast Hall to prepare a sumptuous meal and send it to the Genesis auction house. Then he looked at Hao Lei and asked, "Who do you want to help you?" "Qi Nan," answered Hao Lei with a smile. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, "You're really good at choosing people." "No problem. I'll call her later and she'll come to help you." "Please don't say that it's me, Sect Master," said Hao Lei hurriedly. "Don't worry. I know," said Tan Xiu with a smile. Hao Lei then said, "Sect Master, we've received calls from thousands of local and foreign magnates after these days of publicity, hoping to participate in this auction. However, many of them are asking us to announce some of the auction items in advance. After all, it's very difficult to achieve the best effect if we don't attract their auction items." Chapter 1181. A thoughtful look flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. As a matter of fact, he had told Hao Lei about the gimmick before, but he still felt that it was too little to rely on just 2 medicinal pills. After all, this was an unprecedentedly grand auction that would attract super rich people from all over the world. Given the current situation, it was likely that the number of people would exceed 1,000. Also, he had obtained a lot of treasures from the Joyous Palace, some of which were priceless, but they were nothing in the eyes of many people. In today's world, those who truly grasped the wealth were almost all cultivators. If he wanted to attract more super rich people, he must come up with something that would make them envious. What did cultivators need? Medicinal pills were only one aspect. Aside from medicinal pills, they could also sell array discs, talismans, divine weapons, and so on. Once these things were taken out, it was very likely that all the forces in the world would crazily scramble for them. At that time, the money would definitely flow into his pocket. Tan Xiu pondered for a long time before he looked up at Hao Lei and seriously said, "How much wealth do you think we can get if we auction all the things we have now?" "I've talked about this topic with 4 appraisers before," said Hao Lei. "My preliminary estimate is about 200 billion renminbi." Tan Xiu took a deep breath and shook his head. 200 billion renminbi may seem like a huge number, but it's not worth mentioning when it comes to the consumption of Tang sect's disciples. If I'm not mistaken, Even 2 trillion renminbi won't be enough for tens of thousands of Tang sect's disciples to break through to the spirit formation stage in the next 20 years. 2 trillion? Hao Lei's body slightly trembled. Even if she didn't care about money, she was still startled by the number. Your current cultivation level is too low, so I don't know how much resources you'll need later on. Tan Xiu forced a smile. However, I'm going to make some important decisions next, which should reduce the consumption of money. However, 2 trillion renminbi is definitely something we can spend. The magnificent Tang Corporation is a money-making machine, and it's likely that we'll be able to make a huge amount of money in the future. Hundreds of billions, or even trillions won't be a problem. But the money we'll earn in this auction must be at least more than 1 trillion. Hiss. Hao Lei didn't expect that Tan Xiu had such a big appetite. But the auction items they had now were far from enough. The total value of the treasures he got from the Joyous Palace and the Jin Camp was only a little more than 200 billion. Tan Xiu got up and slowly said, Hao Lei, announced to the public that the Genesis auction will have pills suitable for cultivators, feng shui array discs, various powerful talismans, divine weapons, and even cultivation techniques. Hao Lei's body shook as she asked in disbelief, Sect Master, are you sure you want to sell even the cultivation methods? With a solemn expression, Tan Xiu said, that's right. It's a cultivation technique. However, this kind of cultivation technique could only allow people to cultivate to the foundation establishment stage at most. Its main use was to refine the body. Nowadays, the physical fitness of humans on Earth is getting worse and worse. If I sell this cultivation technique, once it is spread all over the world in the future, the overall physical fitness of humans on Earth, and even their martial arts skills will be greatly improved. Hao Lei asked, Sect Master, do you wish for all of humanity to become stronger? Earth is just a tiny existence in the vast universe. Tan Xiu nodded and said, it can only be regarded as a speck of dust. Let's not talk about the higher planes first. Just our universe space alone has countless galaxies. In many galaxies, there were incomparably powerful technological races, incomparably powerful magical worlds, and even some cultivation worlds. If Earth is too weak, it will be the doomsday of humans on Earth in case some powerful beings from other galaxies come here one day. Tan Xiu walked to the window and looked at the masses of living beings shrouded in darkness outside. Then he said word by word, Earth may be tiny, but it's our root. We'll leave this place in the future and go to a bigger stage to display our strength. We won't be able to take care of this place then. I don't want to find that humanity has been slaughtered when we set foot on this planet again one day. Or rather, we won't be able to find this planet or this galaxy when we come back one day. At this moment, Tan Xiu was talking to Hao Lei, but at the same time, he was also speaking to himself. At this moment, a huge idea formed in his mind. Because of this idea, he knew that he would be very busy in the days to come. Late at night, when Tan Xiu returned to Blue Star Villa Complex, he found Mu Weining, Ouyang Lulu, and Andy still sitting on the sofa in the hall. What Tan Xiu didn't expect was that there were 2 more women in addition to the 3 women. They were Zhang Xinya and Zhang Xinyue, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. You guys, Tan Xiu gaped. He really wanted to turn around and run away. Andy was the first to jump up from the sofa. She dashed to Tan Xiu and smilingly said, You're finally back, boss. If you didn't come back, I'm afraid they would have started fighting. Tan Xiu let out a hollow laugh. Although he didn't want to face such a scene, he still braced himself and walked to the sofa where Andy had just sat. 5 pairs of beautiful eyes. At the moment when Tan Xiu felt like he was sitting on pins and needles, their gazes focused on him. Tan Xiu was fearless and would rather fight countless gods and demons than to face such a scene. He coughed twice, spread his hands, and said, I've incurred the debt of being a dissolute lover. I'll endure it if you want to hit and scold me. If you can't stand it and leave me, I'll accept it. Will you be sad if I leave you? Asked Mu Weining in a low voice. Tan Xiu was silent for a few seconds before he slowly said, I'll be sad and sad, but I'll respect your choice. Mu Weining got up, yawned and said, I've wasted the whole afternoon here and haven't had dinner yet. You guys chat, I'm going to sleep first. Having said that, She ignored the pairs of eyes that were focused on her, walked towards the stairs, and soon disappeared at the top of the stairs. Tan Xiu retracted his gaze and was about to speak when Ouyang Lulu stood up and comfortably stretched herself. She walked straight to Tan Xiu and gently held Tan Xiu's cheek and kissed him on the forehead. Then, she returned to the place where she just sat and picked up her handbag. She then raised her hand to grab Tan Xiu's hand and smilingly said, "I'm going to the Paradise Manor first. Remember to look for me when I'm free tomorrow." "I'm going to Nine Dragons Island tomorrow," said Tan Xiu quickly. Ouyang Lulu's eyes lit up and she said, "I have nothing to do recently, so I'll go with you." "You'll have to be prepared to be bored if you go with me," said Tan Xiu. "I'm going back to Nine Dragons Island this time, so I won't have time to accompany you. Also, I'll only stay in Nine Dragons Island for 10 days. I'll return to Demonic City after that to prepare for the Genesis auction." Upon hearing it, Ouyang Lulu immediately shook her head and said, "Forget it then. The business in my Paradise Manor has been very good recently, especially the number of foreign tourists. The number has obviously increased. I'd better stay here and make money." "That's right. Remember to save a seat for me when the auction is held." "All right." Tan Xiu nodded and felt a bit relieved. Ouyang Lulu didn't stay any longer. She picked up her handbag and directly walked outside. She didn't even look at Zhang Xinya and Zhang Xinyue when she left. Andy looked at the Zhang sisters and hesitated before saying, "I'll be resting in the guest room tonight, boss. I won't lock the door." After saying that, she also ran straight to the stairs. Tan Xiu looked at the gloomy Zhang Xinya and Zhang Xinyue with a headache. The way they looked at Tan Xiu was a bit angry and complicated. "Tan Xiu, I want to go to Nine Dragons Island," said Zhang Xinya all of a sudden. "No problem. You can come with me tomorrow." Tan Xiu nodded directly. "I want to go too," said Zhang Xinyue. "You too." Tan Xiu opened his mouth and hesitated. Zhang Xinya got up and pulled her younger sister, Zhang Xinyue, and said, "We're fine. We'll wait for you at the airport tomorrow." After saying that, the two sisters left. A forced smile appeared on Tan Xiu's handsome face as he looked at the empty hall. The relationship between men and women was really a headache for him. He even felt a bit sorry for those high-ranking officials and nobles in ancient times. They had 3 wives and 4 concubines in their backyards. It was probably not very peaceful, no? After a long while, Tan Xiu smoked several cigarettes in a row before he got up and went to the second floor. When he pushed the bedroom door and walked inside, he saw Mu Weining sitting on the bed in her pajamas, quietly reading a book. After hesitating for a while, Tan Xiu said, "Wait here for a while. I'll check if there's anything to eat at home." Cooking. Tan Xiu knew how to cook. In just half an hour, he personally cooked 2 bowls of noodles and sent one to Andy's room. After handing the noodles to her, he hurriedly returned to the kitchen and took the remaining bowl of noodles to the bedroom on the second floor, saying, "Eat something." Mu Weining flicked the hair on her forehead and took the bowl and chopsticks. After eating a few mouthfuls, she nodded and smilingly said, "It tastes good. Today's matter is really..." Tan Xiu forced a smile. Mu Weining shook her head and interrupted Tan Xiu. "I actually knew that such a day would come. It's nothing. It's enough as long as you care about me. No matter how many women you have, it's your business. I can understand that outstanding men will naturally be liked by women, and each of them is also very outstanding." Tan Xiu held back all the words that were brewing in his stomach when he was cooking. He looked at Mu Weining quietly eating the noodles and sighed inwardly. "Put the bowl and chopsticks on the bedside table after you finish eating. I'm going to take a shower." That night, Mu Weining, who had always been gentle and skillful, became particularly wild. She pestered Tan Xiu for several hours before she finally collapsed and was carried by Tan Xiu, drenched in fragrant sweat. She fell asleep before she finished taking a shower. Chapter 1182. The next day, Tan Xiu hurried to the airport with Tang En. On the way there, he realized something. He glanced at Tang En, who was sitting in the co-pilot seat and had been silent all this time, feeling a bit vexed inside. He had arranged a feng shui array in his residence in Southgate Town back in Star City, but he forgot about it in Blue Star Villa complex. She must have seen the crazy scene between him and Mu Weining last night, right? I must improve my cultivation as soon as possible. When I break through to the Great Ascension stage, I'll be able to sense the surrounding space more deeply. At that time, as long as Tang'an is by my side, I can easily find her even if she can hide in the space layer. Tan Xiu thought in silence and turned to look out the window. They arrived at the airport. Tan Xiu easily found Zhang Xinya and Zhang Xinyue, who had been waiting for a long time. The two women were dressed very similar, wearing caps, big sunglasses, and masks. Each of them also had a big suitcase beside them. "You've been waiting for a long time, haven't you?" asked Tan Xiu as he approached them. "We just arrived not long ago," said Zhang Xinya. "Are we flying directly to Saipan?" Tan Xiu nodded and said, "We'll fly straight to Saipan. We have a helicopter there, so we'll take it to Nine Dragons Island." "That's right, I haven't asked you yet. Are you going to Nine Dragons Island for vacation? Or are you going to stay there permanently?" "Permanently," answered Zhang Xinya. "You don't want to do your work anymore?" asked Tan Xiu curiously. "What about Xinyue? What about her beauty shop?" "I've resigned and announced my departure from the entertainment circle," said Zhang Xinya. "I'll never show my face in public again. Xinyue's shop was actually sold half a month ago, so we have no time to do anything for the time being." Tan Xiu thought for a while and asked, "Are you going to stay in the future? Or are you going to leave with me?" "Where to?" asked Zhang Xinyue. Tan Xiu looked at Zhang Xinya and asked, "You didn't tell her?" "Nope." Zhang Xinya shook her head. Tan Xiu's lips moved and he transmitted his voice to Zhang Xinyue. "I'm a cultivator, you know that. The ultimate goal of us martial cultivators is to cultivate to a higher realm and ascend to immortality in the future. If nothing unexpected happens, I will ascend to the immortal world in a few decades. At that time, a large number of my subordinates will follow me to the immortal world. It might not even return to Earth for thousands of years." Zhang Xinyue's delicate body trembled, and a look of disbelief appeared in her eyes. She had never thought about this problem. Never in her wildest dreams had she ever imagined that the legendary immortal world other than Earth actually existed. After all, that kind of place was the immortal world in Xianxia stories. In the evening, until the four of them arrived at Nine Dragons Island, Zhang Xinyue had yet to absorb all of Tan Xiu's words. Only after Mu Qingping had arranged the accommodation for Zhang Xinya and Zhang Xinyue did she run to Tan Xiu's room and asked, "Can you teach me the cultivation technique? I also want to become a martial cultivator. I also want to become very powerful. The ability to soar into the clouds and ride on the mist is amazing. The path of cultivation is very dangerous." Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, "You have to bear a lot of pain that ordinary people can't bear. And you also have to face unimaginable dangers. If you become a cultivator, you may have to face the fights between people in the future, as well as the war between immortals." "Will you protect me?" asked Zhang Xinyue. "Of course I'll protect you, unless I'm already killed." Tan Xiu nodded. A bright smile appeared on Zhang Xinyue's face as she walked straight to Tan Xiu. She wrapped her arms around Tan Xiu's neck and said, "I naturally won't be afraid since you'll protect me. You're a cultivator now, and so is my big sister. You can protect me, so I also want to become a cultivator. I'll follow you wherever you go in the future." "What about your big sister?" asked Tan Xiu. "She said she's tired and is resting in her room," answered Zhang Xinyue. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment before he nodded and said, "You'll stay in my room tonight. I'll teach you a cultivation technique. As for how far you can break through in the future, I can't guarantee it. But what I can tell you is that you must break through to the spirit formation stage within a few decades if you want to go to the immortal world with us." "What is the spirit formation stage?" asked Zhang Xinyue curiously. "Will becoming a cultivator at the spirit formation stage be very powerful? Can they fly? Someone will naturally tell you about the cultivation realm of cultivators in the future," said Tan Xiu. "As for spirit formation stage cultivators, they can fly and are also very powerful. If you were a soul formation cultivator now, even an army wouldn't be a match for you." Zhang Xinyue clenched her fists and excitedly said, Cultivation. I must cultivate. It took 4 hours. Tan Xiao taught Zhang Xinyue all the acupoints and meridian routes in the human body. He even taught her a very powerful immortal cultivation technique from the immortal world. Afterward, she didn't hesitate to consume her heart's blood essence to infuse a drop of it into Zhang Xinyue's body, and gradually fused it into her heart. Late at night, when Tang Xiao arrived at the Nine Dragons Island's alchemy lab, he could feel the heat wave rolling from the inside even before he entered the main hall. He found that the temperature inside the alchemy lab was at least 20 degrees higher than the outside. It wouldn't take long for an ordinary person to be steamed by the high temperature if they were to step into this place. Jiqimei. The alchemy lab's area was very large, at least hundreds of square meters. The surrounding walls were lined with shelves filled with various jade bottles and jars, as well as some medicinal herbs, ores, and fierce beast bones that were suitable to be stored under high temperature. Jiqimei immediately floated over upon noticing Tan Xiao's arrival. With a respectful look on her old face, she saluted and said, "Why did you come here, Lord?" "I'm going to concoct pills here in 4 days," answered Tan Xiao. Jiqimei hesitated and said, "Lord, there are some pills I've concocted inside the furnace. It will take a few days before I can successfully concoct them. There are only 2 alchemy furnaces in the entire warehouse. The other one is of average quality, and is usually used by apprentices for alchemy. Do you want me to directly waste this furnace of pills, Lord? Or, I have an alchemy furnace," said Tan Xiao with a smile. After saying that, he took out the demon god spirit devourer cauldron from his interspatial ring, and loudly placed it in the spacious alchemy lab. Then he quickly refined a few array discs and arranged an array under the cauldron. Only then did he look at Jiqimei and asked, "This cauldron of mine is good, isn't it?" Jiqimei's vision was very high. Her heart thumped a few times after seeing the demon god spirit devourer cauldron. She circled the cauldron a few times and carefully observed it several times before she sighed and said, "This cauldron is comparable to a top-grade immortal tool, Lord. I have a feeling that this cauldron can not only be used to concoct pills, but it can also be used to refine tools, no? You have good eyesight." Tan Xiao smiled and said, "This cauldron can indeed be used to concoct pills and refine tools. Jiqimei, you may be stronger than me now, but I'm afraid there's still a gap between you and me in alchemy and tool refining. I'll teach you some alchemy and tool refining secret techniques in the next 10 days. You must study them well. You'll be the most important immortal alchemist and immortal tool refiner under my command in the future." Jiqimei's eyes lit up and she gratefully said, "This subordinate will definitely go all out to learn and serve Lord in the future." 10 days. Although the time was very short, Tan Xiao stayed in the alchemy lab all the time. In the past 4 days he had refined a lot of pills with various effects. These elixirs would bring great benefits even to cultivators at the golden core stage. Only nascent soul stage cultivators would have a slightly insufficient medicinal efficacy. From the 5th to the 8th day, Tan Xiao continued to refine tools. Due to the lack of immortal qi to refine them, the weapons he refined couldn't reach the level of the immortal world. However, each and every one of them was a top-notch magic weapon. If these magic weapons were placed on Earth, any one of them would be enough to make countless people envious and likely set off a bloody battle for the treasures. In the last 2 days, Tan Xiao refined 10 sets of array discs and handed them all to Gu Xiaoxue. He also refined 2 sets of low-level array discs and prepared to auction them in the Genesis auction. In addition, he also refined more than a dozen kinds of talismans in these 2 days, totaling hundreds of them, all of which were also handed over to Gu Xiaoxue. However, for the Genesis auction, he refined another 100 talismans that were much less powerful. Huff! When Tan Xiao stepped out of the alchemy lab, Gu Yan'er, who had been waiting outside for a long time, revealed a brilliant smile on her breathtakingly beautiful face. "Master." Gu Yan'er didn't care about Tan Xiao's naked body and the beads of sweat rolling down his lean muscles. She quickly came to Tan Xiao's side and grabbed Tan Xiao's arm. "How did you get out of the exquisite pagoda?" Tan Xiao asked with a smile. "I was planning to go to the exquisite pagoda to see you after these 10 days. My injuries have been suppressed and are getting better every day." Gu Yan'er chuckled and said, "My injuries will be completely healed in a few years." "That's right, master. I refined 2 pills since I had nothing to do a few days ago. They should be effective for you." Tan Xiu shook his head and smilingly said, "Even if it's an immortal pill, it won't be of much help to me, unless it's an immortal demon pill. Unfortunately, such pills are in the hands of some great demon kings in the demon realm." Gu Yan'er stretched out her palm, and 2 pills appeared out of thin air in her palm. One was black and the other was white. The black pill's surface flickered with a dark light, while the white pill's surface seemed to have ripples on it. Immortal demon pill? Tan Xiu's pupils shrunk, and an incredulous look appeared in his eyes. It never crossed his mind that Gu Yan'er could refine an immortal demon pill, much less that Gu Yan'er could obtain the materials needed to refine it. One must know that those materials were extremely rare. Gu Yan'er chuckled and said, "Master, this isn't an immortal demon pill in the truest sense, but its medicinal efficacy is almost the same as an immortal demon pill. It's just that the medicinal efficacy inside is 10 times weaker than an immortal demon pill." Chapter 1183. Tan Xiu gently took the immortal fiend pill and looked at Gu Yan'er with a distressed expression. He knew how difficult it was to refine an immortal fiend pill because the most important ingredient was the blood essence from one's heart. Don't do things that harm yourself and others in the future. Tan Xiu put away the immortal fiend pill and gently hugged Gu Yan'er as he said solemnly. Gu Yan'er's eyes gleamed with happiness. Although she agreed softly, she didn't agree with it inwardly. She was willing to pay anything that could help Tan Xiu, even if it would bring her great harm. Just like in the past, on a winding mountain road, Tan Xiu and Gu Yan'er walked side by side toward the beach where the exquisite pagoda was located. The cold wind blew, but it didn't bring any discomfort to the two. Yan'er, the immortal fiend pill is taken by the devils in the demon realm, who focus on their demon physique. The pill formula is very precious. Even I spent 10,000 years in the immortal world, sneaking into the demon realm countless times. Yet, it took me a lot of effort to get the formula. "How did you get it?" asked Tan Xiu. "I got it from the Immortal Lyceum," said Gu Yan'er with a chuckle. "The Immortal Lyceum?" Tan Xiu's complexion slightly changed, and a complicated look appeared in his eyes. He was once a supreme in the immortal world who possessed terrifying strength, and could calmly face countless immortals and devils. But there was only one person that he had always felt guilty about. That person was the master of the Immortal Lyceum, the peerless and peerless perfected golden immortal, Apotheosis Immortal Bella. He used to be. His whole heart was with Xue Qingcheng. He stubbornly believed that it was enough to have a true lover in this life. Therefore, even though Apotheosis Bella pursued him for thousands of years, and even turned him into a laughingstock in the immortal world, he was always indifferent to it. Rejection was ineffective, so he could only avoid it. Tan Xiu took a deep breath and asked, "Is she okay?" Gu Yan'er knew who Tan Xiu was asking about. There was a bit of admiration in her eyes as she nodded and said, "She's very good, at least on the surface." After Master's incident, she spent hundreds of years to forcibly break into the immortal domain where you lived in seclusion, and brought out all the treasures that you had collected for 10,000 years. Moreover, she marked out an area in the immortal court, and rebuilt it according to the scenery of the place where you lived in seclusion. When I first stepped into the immortal court, I received her hospitality, and spent 100 years to read through the books and records that you had collected for 10,000 years. But, Tan Xiu frowned and asked, "But what?" Gu Yan'er forced a smile and said, "However, I have a faint feeling that she's plotting something big, but I don't know what it is. However, she tried to win me over and let me work for her. It's a pity that I was in a hurry to find you, so I rejected her." Tan Xiu frowned and shook his head. "She's not a shrewd person. It's hard for her to come up with any big plans given her hot temper. Anyways, let's not talk about her anymore. I haven't practiced swordsmanship for a long time. Do you still remember the sword dance I taught you in the past?" Gu Yan'er's eyes lit up and she smilingly nodded. "I do. Accompany me to practice swordsmanship," said Tan Xiu. "I'm leaving 9 Dragons Island tomorrow to attend the auction in Demonic City." Gu Yan'er complied and curiously asked, "Master, I heard from Xiaoxue that you're going to hold an auction in Demonic City. I heard that it's going to be a huge auction? The number of cultivators in our Tang sect will only increase, said Tan Xiao. I'm afraid that the cultivation resources we'll need to consume every year will be a huge number. I'm prepared to make a huge amount of money in a short time. Then, we'll go all out to cultivate. Gu Yenner's eyes lit up and she asked, will you be cultivating in the exquisite pagoda when the time comes? Yeah. Tan Xiao nodded. After getting Tan Xiao's answer, Gu Yenner became excited. She was still a bit excited even when the two of them arrived at the seaside. Dream Butterfly Sword Dance. Tang Xiao once created a sword art when he was bored in the Immortal world. The foundation of this sword art was based on observing the graceful dance of butterflies. Their postures were light and graceful. The two butterflies swayed up and down as though they were dancing and competing with each other. They walked on the waves. In just half a minute, Tang Xiao and Gu Yan had already appeared on the sea surface a kilometer away. Two immortal swords appeared in their hands, and their figures turned hazy. Under the blazing sun, the duo looked like a celestial couple, dancing gracefully as they brandished their swords to their heart's content. Golden Butterfly Dance. Gu Yenner's delicate body leaned back at a 60-degree angle. The sword's shadow flickered as the tip of the sword constantly swallowed and spat out the lingering airflow that formed golden light butterflies. When she floated tens of meters above the sea surface, thousands of golden butterflies flapped their wings around her as if they were dancing happily. Silver Butterfly Love's Cluster. Tan Xiao's body rotated crazily, maintaining the same height as Gu Yenner. Along with the swallowing and spitting of sword light, silver light butterflies appeared out of thin air and gathered together with the tens of thousands of golden butterflies. On the shore a kilometer away, Ji Qimei and Gu Xiaoxue stood side by side with a surprised look on their faces. The sword dance displayed by Tan Xiao and Gu Yenner was simply breathtakingly beautiful and deeply intoxicating. It's so beautiful. Gu Yin's figure flashed from a distance. When she landed beside Gu Xiaoxue, she murmured, Inin also wants to learn this sword dance. It's so beautiful. Gu Xiaoxue turned her head and looked at Gu Yin with a smile. Little martial ant, do you want to learn this sword dance because you want to find a Mr. Right in the future to be your sparring partner? Inin doesn't want to find a Mr. Right, said Gu Yin shyly. Master is very good to me. I want to be like eldest senior sister and practice the sword with Master. A smile immediately appeared on Gu Xiaoxue's face upon hearing it. Her eyes shifted back to the two people practicing the sword in the sea, full of envy. She also wanted to learn this sword dance. She also wanted to practice the sword with her grandmaster, Tan Xiao. But she was well aware that she would never be able to realize this extravagant wish in this life. The sword fell and the butterflies disappeared. Tang Xiao, who stepped on the surface of the sea and put away his immortal sword, had a similar expression as Gu Yenner. Then a smile appeared on their faces as Tang Xiao said, Let's head back and recuperate. The faster you recover, the stronger the Tang sect will be. I'm looking forward to you being able to guide the Tang sect's disciples in their cultivation after you recover. Yenner still has the power of an immortal master, said Gu Yenner with a smile. I can make the Tang sect's disciples advance by leaps and bounds, even if I have to consume some immortal qi. Tan Xiao hurriedly said, You mustn't use immortal qi before you fully recover from your injuries. There's no immortal qi in this space, and every bit you use now will be less. I'll need your protection when we return to the immortal world in the future. Don't worry, Master. Gu Yenner nodded and smilingly said, I know what I'm doing. Tan Xiao nodded in response. He then looked at the shore and said, I'm going to bring the Tang family's people to Nine Dragons Island, and let them become cultivators. Let them stay on Earth if they want to, but if they want to go to the immortal world with us, it's up to them. Gu Yenner thought for a while and said, Then I'll set up a separate area in Nine Dragons Island to settle the Tang family's descendants. But you must think about it carefully, Master. If the family's disciples learn about your identity and know that you're a disciple of the Tang sect, will they bring trouble to Nine Dragons Island because of you? Don't worry, Tan Xiao said. The Tang family has no more than 30 core members. I'll give them a warning and throw them into the training camp to receive normal training. If they can persist, they'll stay in Nine Dragons Island and return to China if they can't. They won't get any special care in Nine Dragons Island. It's Yen'er being a busybody. Gu Yen'er smiled and said, "You know who you are, master? You can naturally take such a small issue into consideration." Now Yen'er feels very happy because she doesn't need to think about anything when she's with master. Yen'er always trembled with fear and tread on thin ice when I didn't have master. Tan Xiu sighed inwardly. He knew that Gu Yen'er's sacrifice was all because of him. Otherwise, it would have been too easy for her to live a comfortable life in the immortal world, given her talent and strength. Tan Xiu gently grabbed Gu Yen'er's shoulder and said with a self-reproachful tone. Gu Yen'er leaned on Tan Xiu's shoulder and smilingly shook her head. "Master, Yen'er will always be happy no matter how bitter and tired she is. Everything is for you, master. As long as you don't abandon Yen'er in the future, even if Yen'er has to become the enemy of the whole world, Yen'er will be willing to do it." "Yen'er, master will never abandon you again," said Tan Xiu. There was still a long way to go. Tan Xiu felt that the pressure on him had increased a lot. After releasing Gu Yen'er, he followed Gu Yen'er into the exquisite pagoda and stayed there until the next morning. Only then did he accompany Gu Yen'er to have breakfast. "I want to leave with you." Shuiyu, who had been cultivating on Nine Dragons Island, suddenly spoke. Tan Xiu put down his bowl and chopsticks and asked, "Have you stabilized your realm?" "Yes." Shuiyu nodded and said, "My current power is at the early stage of spirit formation. Yen'er has taught me a lot of things these days. I should be able to break through to the late stage of spirit formation in half a year at most if nothing unexpected happens." Tan Xiu thought for a while and asked, "Are you going back to China for something?" "Nothing else but to check on some business matters." Shuiyu shook her head. "You're very strong now, Shuiyu," said Tan Xiu. "But you lack the combat experience. Let's do it this way. Don't go back to China if you want to, but go to M country instead. Mo and the others have arrived in M country and are carrying out a secret mission. You're much stronger than them, so going there to help them will also help you gain some experience." "M country?" Shuiyu thought for a while and nodded. "No problem. I'll go to M country then." She had learned a lot of things from Gu Yen'er these days, including many things about Tan Xiu. She also knew that they would be facing an extremely terrifying enemy, so she wanted to help Tan Xiu as long as Tan Xiu needed it. "Continue to break out today. I'm asking for monthly votes." Chapter 1184. Shanghai International Airport. As a private passenger plane slowly landed, and the latter went straight to the ground, Tan Xiu slowly walked out of the cabin door with his hands behind his back. Immediately after, dozens of experts from the Tang sect came out of the cabin door and followed Tan Xiu to the ground. A row of 10 black Audi cars were parked next to the latter with a big man in a black suit standing outside the driver's door of each car. With a smile on the corner of her mouth, Xia stepped forward and hugged Tan Xiu. Then she smilingly said, "I heard that you ran into something interesting in Shanghai a few days ago, yes?" Tan Xiu stared blankly and asked with a confused expression, "What interesting thing?" "Andy told me about it. I almost had a fire in my backyard," said Xia with a smile. Tan Xiu's expression instantly turned a bit awkward and he snappily said, "You're just touching my sore spot. Anyways, let's go." Xia let out a faint smile and beckoned the dozens of experts from the Tang sect to enter the cars. As the convoy quickly left, 3 more black Audi cars quickly stopped next to the passenger plane. Along with the sound of the car horn, 10 boys and girls dressed like children of extremely rich families got off the plane, and then quickly got into 3 cars and drove away. At the Genesis auction house, after Tan Xiu and Xia arrived, the dozens of experts from the Tang sect dispersed and began to check the security deployment of the auction house. This place was going to be a money-making machine, so security must be the top priority. Therefore, they received a strict order from Tan Xiu that the entire auction house must be airtight and no one was allowed to sneak in. Everything within 2 kilometers of the auction house had to be strictly guarded. Any suspicious person that approached must be immediately interrogated. If anyone with ill intentions approached, they would be immediately arrested. If the other party resisted, they could even be killed on the spot. However, less than 2 hours after Tan Xiao arrived at the Genesis auction house, dozens of ability users from the Special Abilities Bureau appeared within a range of 2 to 5 kilometers from the auction house. With the help of many plainclothes policemen, they formed the outermost security zone. On the 4th floor, apart from the central hall, there were a total of 4 halls around it. Each hall was very large and contained a large number of precious items. In the past month, the Genesis auction house had received commissions from a large number of guests from all over the world. In just 1 month, they had accepted commissions for more than 200 precious auction items. These items were appraised by appraisers from 4 countries around the world. 8 of them were foreign appraisers, and each of them was world-renowned. The other 4 were appraisers from Wuxia, and they were all renowned experts and professors. The 12-man team selected more than 200 items after appraisal, and each of them was worth more than $1 million. It could be said that an item worth millions was only the lowest level. Haolei, these are elixirs. You personally put these elixirs on the shelf. 10 beauty pills, each with a base price of $100 million. 10 longevity pills, each with a base price of $100 million. 10 detoxification pills, each with a base price of $100 million. 10 bottles of body tempering elixir, each with a base price of $100 million. 20 essence amassing elixirs, each with a base price of $100 million, said Tan Xiao slowly. Haolei was a bit shocked. She didn't expect that Tan Xiao would be so generous to auction so many cultivation resources at the auction. Isn't it a bit too much, boss? Asked Kong Xiao slowly with a surprised look on her face. This is only part of it. Tan Xiao shook his head and said, there's still the set. 1 beauty pill, 1 longevity pill, 1 detoxification pill, 1 body tempering elixir, and 1 essence amassing elixir. The base price of the set is $600 million. Haolei memorized everything Tan Xiao said, and placed all the jade bottles containing the elixirs on the shelf. Soon after, Tan Xiao took out 2 sets of array discs from his interspatial ring and handed them to Haolei, saying, these 2 sets of array discs, each with a base price of $1 billion. These 2 sets of array discs have dual effects. The first one is a defensive and trapping array. Even if a golden core cultivator were to step into the array, it would be a dream for them to rush out. Only those who have broken through to the nascent soul stage can go all out to blast the array. Haolei's expression was a bit strange and she asked, Sect Master, what if the people who buy these 2 sets of array discs become our enemies in the future? Will they pose a threat to us? I know what you're planning to do. You must eliminate the enemies of our foreign forces in the future. I'll teach the method to crack these 2 sets of array discs to all the disciples of our Tang sect after they're sold, said Tan Xiao with a faint smile. They won't pose any threat to us even if we encounter them in the future. Even if they dare to use these 2 sets of array discs to deal with us, they will suffer the consequences of their own actions. Haolei's eyes lit up and she immediately exclaimed, You're wise, Sect Master. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and took out 100 talismans. Then he said, these talismans are divided into 5 sets, with 20 talismans each. The base price of each set is $200 million. Alright. Haolei received them and arranged them. Tan Xiao then took out 2 magic swords, 2 spears, 2 heavy axes and 2 sabers. Then he said, the base price of each is $500 million, and we'll auction them separately. Haolei received them and put them away. Then she asked, anything else? Tan Xiao finally took out a set of jewelry and smilingly said, I also refined this set of jewelry, and it only has one effect, defense. Wearing this set of jewelry can withstand a full blow from a nascent soul stage powerhouse. However, the effect can only be used 3 times. After that, this set of jewelry will be scrapped. Therefore, having this set of jewelry is equivalent to having 3 more lives. The base price is $1 billion. Haolei looked at the dazzling jewelry and gulped down her saliva. She liked the design of this set of jewelry, but she liked its effect even more. After hesitating for a while, she asked, Boss, do we have this kind of jewelry for sale in our sect? I also want to have a set. Tan Xiu grinned and said, all Tang Sect's core disciples will get this set of jewelry or other defensive magic weapons within 2 years. Hao Lei looked excited. She nodded repeatedly and said, there are still a few days left before the auction, Sect Master. There are already 685 confirmed guests. If we announce these treasures to the public, I'm afraid the number will double. Don't announce the specific number but announce the type and effect, said Tan Xiu without hesitation. Also, announce the news that if our Genesis auction house doesn't receive any contact from the other party within 3 days, everyone will be disqualified from participating in the auction. Understood. Hao Lei respectfully replied. In the evening, just as Tan Xiu and Kong Xia were having dinner together, Mu Weining hurried over and brought a message to Tan Xiu. A man named Hu Xiaoquan was looking for him and looked very anxious. After hearing Hu Xiaoquan's name, Tan Xiu suddenly recalled something. He had received a call from Li Kai when he was in Jingmen Island. They had an appointment to meet in Star City, but Li Kai failed to keep the appointment and never went to Star City. Where is he now? Asked Tan Xiu. Mu Weining glanced at Kong Xia and said, he's in Lulu's Paradise Manor. We tried to call you, but your mobile was turned off, so I had to come here. Have you had dinner yet? Tan Xiu nodded and asked. Mu Weining shook her head and said, I was about to have dinner, but Hu Xiaoquan said that the situation is very serious and I must find you as soon as possible. I didn't know you were here, so I contacted Hao Lei and learned from her that you were here. Also, I've informed Hu Xiaoquan that you're here. Tang Xiu then looked at Hao Lei and said, pass down the order. If a young man named Hu Xiaoquan comes, tell him to be brought here. Understood. Hao Lei nodded and left straight away. Tan Xiu pulled a chair for Mu Weining and ordered some food for her. Then he said, you and Kong Xia are acquaintances, so I won't introduce you to each other. You two eat first, I'll go downstairs and have a look. Mu Weining hesitated for a moment before she sat down and said, would you like a glass of wine, Kong Xia? Sure. Kong Xia replied with a smile. Half an hour later, Tan Xiu was smoking at the entrance of the Genesis building when he saw Hu Xiaoquan run over under the lead of an expert from the Tang sect. Beads of sweat rolled down his face and anxiety could be seen in his eyes. Save Li Kai, Tan Xiu. Hu Xiaoquan ran to the front of Tang Xiu and hurriedly shouted without even having time to catch his breath. Tan Xiu's expression slightly changed and he asked, what happened? I don't know the specific reason, said Hu Xiaoquan. Li Kai was planning to go to Star City to see you more than a month ago, but she suddenly had a fever and fell into a coma from time to time. I originally wanted to ask you for help, but she stopped me. She said that she had troubled you too much, so she didn't allow me to contact you. But now, I have no choice but to find you. She has been in a coma for 3 days and her body temperature has exceeded 45 degrees. She would have been burned to death if she was a normal person. Tan Xiu took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, she's in the Blue Starfish Mansion, isn't she? Take me there. Hu Xiaoquan turned around and left. He took Tan Xiu 2 kilometers away, and then entered his car. After the car started, he looked at Tan Xiu, who was sitting in the back seat, and said while driving, do you know what happened to Li Kai, Tan Xiu? Also, Aunt Zhuang has woken up and is in good spirits, though her body is still a bit weak. As long as she recuperates well, she should be able to recover in 10 days to half a month. Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment before he shook his head and sighed. I think I already know the reason. What reason? Asked Hu Xiaoquan, confused. Was there a scar on Li Kai's wrist before? Tan Xiu asked. Like when a woman commits suicide by cutting her wrist, right? That's right. Answered Hu Xiaoquan without hesitation. I was also shocked when I saw her wrist injury. I asked her what happened and she said that she accidentally cut her wrist, seeking monthly votes for the last few days. Chapter 1185. She didn't accidentally cut her wrist. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, she deliberately cut her wrist and fed her own blood essence to her mother. Otherwise, with the speed of her treatment, her mother would probably need a few more months to recover. What did you say? Hu Xiaoquan's hands trembled, and he nearly drove the car to the roadside. After stabilizing his mood, he hurriedly said, "Why did she do that? Does she want to die? I know she's very filial to her mother, but she did something wrong." Tan Xiu forced a smile. Feeding her mother her own blood can indeed make her mother recover sooner, but it will cause great harm to her and greatly shorten her lifespan. Judging from her current condition, I'm afraid she'll only have a month at most if she doesn't receive timely treatment. Maybe even 10 days or half a month. At that time, even if her mother recovers temporarily, she won't be able to live for long with her death. Hu Xiaoquan didn't understand the reason behind it, but he could clearly understand Tan Xiu's words. It meant that Li Kai fed her mother her own blood essence, and wanted her mother to recover as soon as possible. But she suffered a serious problem, and her mother, Aunt Zhuang, wouldn't be able to have a good end once something happened to her. Silly girl. Hu Xiaoquan felt distressed and reproached her. She's indeed a silly girl. Tan Xiu nodded. I've seen countless girls and countless filial ones, but only a few of them can compare to her. Can you answer a question for me, Hu Xiaoquan? After stabilizing his mood, Hu Xiaoquan said, Tan Xiu, Divine Dr. Tang, I was too impatient before, so I didn't know your name. Please don't stoop to my level. Please ask. I'll tell you everything I know. Tan Xiu didn't care about the address and asked, What I want to know is, do you simply regard Li Kai as your younger sister? Or do you secretly like her? This, Hu Xiaoquan hesitated with countless thoughts churning in his mind. After the car drove more than 10 kilometers away, he forced a smile and said, I won't hide it from you, Divine Dr. Tang. I might have simply regarded her as my younger sister in the past, but after experiencing so many things, I found that I liked her. Her strength, her kindness, her filial piety, her innocence. Tan Xiu asked again. If you were asked to give up your life for her, would you be willing? Tell the truth, because your answer will determine how long she can live in the future. Hu Xiaoquan's heart shook, and he said resolutely and decisively, I'm willing to pay the price with my life if she can survive. In that case, you must be mentally prepared, said Tan Xiu. I might be able to save her life for now, but I'll need to use your lifespan to treat her. Finished. Tan Xiu turned his head to look outside the window with a bit of anger on his handsome face. He cursed in a low voice, Motherfucker. I'll be in a weak state for at least half a month if I have to fight the King of Hell. Hu Xiaoquan's keen senses caught Tan Xiu's words, and a complicated expression immediately appeared on his face. He had always been wary of Tan Xiu in the past, whether it was because of Tan Xiu's identity in the government, his magical medical skills, his identity as the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, or his identity as the Tang family's young master in the imperial capital. But now, the vigilance in his heart had completely vanished. He could feel that Tan Xiu's treatment of Li Kai, or rather Aunt Zhuang, was not because of any utilitarian motives. It was purely because he was touched by Li Kai that he went all out to help her. At the Blue Starfish Mansion, when Tan Xiu arrived with Hu Xiaoquan, he saw the unconscious Li Kai lying on the bed, as well as the slightly pale and tearful Aunt Zhuang. He sighed inwardly and walked to her side saying, Stretch out your right hand. Aunt Zhuang stared blankly, and hurriedly wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes. She then looked at Hu Xiaoquan and asked, Who is this? Aunt Zhuang, he's Tan Xiu, Divine Dr. Tang, said Hu Xiaoquan hurriedly. Upon hearing this, Aunt Zhuang immediately knelt on the ground and begged Tan Xiu. I've long heard of your great name, Divine Dr. Tang. Thank you for treating me. But now my daughter is sick. I hope you can save her. I'm willing to pay any price as long as you can save her. Tan Xiu grabbed her right wrist and calmly checked her pulse. Then he pulled her up from the ground and said, Treating and saving people is my duty, although you and your daughter's situation are somewhat special. Your body is indeed fine now, but you must remember one thing. The lives of you, your daughter, and Hu Xiaoquan will be closely tied to each other from now on. If any one of you dies, the other two will also die in the future. What do you mean by that, Divine Dr. Tang? Asked Aunt Zhuang incredulously. I really didn't want to treat you at first. Tan Xiu said lightly. It's because your illness is not an ordinary illness, but retribution from the heavens. I don't understand why you can reincarnate again, but I can tell you that your daughter wouldn't have been so miserable if it weren't for you. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's words, Aunt Zhuang seemed to have lost her soul and murmured, "Retribution? Is this retribution from the heavens? Don't tell me that the things in my dream are all real?" "It's true," said Tan Xiu. "Bm." Aunt Zhuang slumped to the ground and stared at Tan Xiu. She suddenly said, "So I was a demon in my past life? A demoness who slaughtered hundreds of millions of people?" "Yes." Tan Xiu nodded again. Aunt Zhuang suddenly jumped up. As her 5 fingers spread out, a cloud of black smoke instantly drifted out. Then she fiercely smashed her chest with her other hand and spurted a mouthful of blood into the black smoke. She then shouted, "I'll bear all the sins I've committed. It has nothing to do with my daughter. If the heavens want my life, then I'll give it to them." Tan Xiu's expression greatly changed. He didn't expect that Aunt Zhuang would be able to unleash her magical power. Although the power she unleashed was very weak, and was even weaker than a Foundation establishment cultivator, she would probably die here in a short time if she was allowed to unleash it. Bam! Tan Xiu punched the back of her neck and knocked her unconscious. Then he threw her on the sofa and shook his head while sighing. A loving mother and a filial daughter. What a pity. Hu Shaoquan watched helplessly as his previously dignified and virtuous Aunt Zhuang unexpectedly released the black smoke and spurted out blood. His heart violently trembled a few times and disbelief was written all over his face. He didn't believe in immortals and demons before, but now that he saw it with his own eyes, he had no choice but to believe it. Hu Shaoquan, immediately send someone to find a rooster, a black dog, a tabby cat, and a turtle, said Tan Xiu. Also, send someone to buy an incense burner, spices and a willow wooden sword. Hu Shaoquan nodded without hesitation and quickly left. About an hour later, Tan Xiu had found everything he needed. He slaughtered the chicken, the dog, the cat, and the turtle. The 4 spirit beasts array. After arranging the array as fast as possible, Tan Xiu ordered Hu Shaoquan to sit in the eye of the array, and then said in a deep voice, "Ignore everything you see and hear. No one, no ghost can hurt you. I'm going to demand your life from the king of hell. I'm going to sever the fate of you, Li Kai, and her mother, so that you will become a lifeless person from now on." After sitting cross-legged, Hu Shaoquan looked up at Tan Xiu and asked, "What is a lifeless person?" "A lifeless person is your fate. You will disappear from this world, and will no longer be under the supervision of the 6 paths of reincarnation," said Tan Xiu. "From now on, all you have to do is to be a mouse and avoid contact with others as much as possible. Avoid the heavenly Tao and keep your life." "I don't quite understand." Hu Shaoquan shook his head. "In short, you will still live and die normally, but your fate is no longer in this world," said Tan Xiu. "You will truly vanish into thin air if you die, and will never be able to reincarnate again. Besides that, if you come into contact with others too much, you'll suffer the backlash of karma. At that time, because there's too much karma, you'll be discovered by the laws of the heaven Tao, and then you'll be mercilessly annihilated. How can we survive if we can't communicate with others?" Hu Shaoquan was aghast. "Do you want to become a cultivator?" Tan Xiu took a deep breath and lightly said, "Do you want to become a cultivator? Do you want to change your fate? Of course, it's not too late for you to regret it now. Once you do, I'm afraid you won't be able to keep Li Kai and her mother's lives. Li Kai and Aunt Zhuang's lives must be preserved," said Hu Shaoquan with a solemn expression. "What I want to know is how to change this fate. How to become a cultivator. Become a cultivator and break through to the spirit formation stage as fast as possible." Tan Xiu nodded. "Then wait until you leave this world in the future, and go to a higher level world to have a look. Once you leave this world, you will no longer be under the supervision of this world. At that time, the 3 of you will be able to live a safe life in another world without any worries. Can you really help me?" asked Hu Shaoquan hurriedly. "I can help you, but before that, you must cut off all ties with your family and cut off all the karmic ties in this world," said Tan Xiu. "Only then can I give you a chance. As long as you can seize this opportunity, you can join my sect and become a true cultivator." Hu Shaoquan looked at the unconscious Li Kai lying on the bed, and the unconscious Aunt Zhuang lying on the sofa. After hesitating for a long time, he finally made up his mind and nodded. I promise you, Divine Dr. Tang. But I need you to help me put on a show. Tan Xiu didn't have any problem with Hu Xiaoquan helping him put on a show. He immediately activated the array and began to cast a secret technique. It was a very dangerous method to take the life of the King of Hell, but Tan Xiu's current strength couldn't be underestimated. Coupled with the support of the 4-spirit beast array, it was a lot safer. Chapter 1186. Although Tan Xiu's cultivation wasn't weak, he was still too weak to snatch someone's life from the King of Hell. As he used the secret technique, coupled with the operation of the 4-spirit beast formation, he slowly began to communicate with the netherworld, shielding himself from the supervision of the heavenly Tao. Bastard, who dares to take over the Book of Life and Death? A roar was transmitted to Tan Xiu's heart. Then, an invisible force crazily shattered the spatial barrier and bombarded the 4-spirit beast formation. Tang Xiu's heart trembled violently, and a look of disbelief appeared on his face. He spurted out a mouthful of blood, but in the blink of an eye, he had cut off his opponent's soul attack and forced out his blood essence to quickly fuse with the 4-spirit beast array. Soul hook life and death case eliminated. Tan Xiu bit his finger, and as blood flowed out, he quickly wrote a string of words in the air. Then, the words turned into golden light and quickly merged into the 4-spirit beast formation. At this moment, whether it was Hu Xiaoquan who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, Li Kai who was lying on the bed, or White Tiger who was leaning on the sofa, their bodies shook and their tightly closed eyes quickly opened. Disperse. Tan Xiu spat out another mouthful of blood and fiercely punched the terrifying force outside the formation. Then the two forces didn't explode. Instead, like melting ice, they gradually dissipated from the world. The 4-spirit beast formation was broken. Tan Xiu took out 4 invisibility talismans from his interspatial ring and quickly shot them onto the other 3. He also wore one. Crack! As the 4 invisibility talismans shattered, the world returned to normal. Tan Xiu looked at the ground with lingering fear, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. He never thought that the King of Hell, who controlled the 6 paths of reincarnation in the underworld, would have such terrifying power. One had to know that this was just an ordinary world called the mortal world. Logically speaking, the King of Hell in charge of this world shouldn't be very strong. However, Tan Xiu had just discovered that the King of Hell from the underworld was definitely stronger than ordinary immortals. This was impossible according to his common sense. Fortunately, that super expert had used all sorts of spatial barriers to attack him. Otherwise, he would have been obliterated by that terrifying existence. In the future, I can't do this kind of loss-making thing anymore. It's too damn dangerous. Tan Xiu wiped the bloodstain on the corner of his mouth. He looked at the 3 pairs of eyes and angrily said, "What are you guys still staring at? Hurry over and help me up. In order to defy the heavens and change your fates so that you won't die now, I've suffered a great loss." Li Kai jumped up from the bed and felt that the weakness she had been feeling for the past few days had completely disappeared. She immediately rushed to Tan Xiu and asked with a concerned face, "Are you all right, Divine Dr. Tang? Did you save me?" Tan Xiu said angrily, "If it wasn't me, did God save you out of kindness? Don't talk nonsense, hurry up and help me get up. Also help me take out my phone, I need to make a call." "Oh okay." After carefully propping up Tan Xiu, Li Kai asked in a low voice, "Who do you want to call, Divine Dr. Tang?" "Find a name called Gu Xiaoxua from the phone list and call her," said Tan Xiu. "I've consumed a lot of my strength, and I don't even have the strength to lift my arm." Weakness. Ever since Tan Xiu returned to Earth, he had never felt such a strong feeling of weakness, even though he had no cultivation at all. In that instant, the power in his body was almost completely drained. Even those planets became dim and lifeless, as if they were dead stars. Furthermore, his head felt like it was split open. He would have fainted from the pain if it wasn't for his powerful mental power. "Hello, Grandmaster." Gu Xiaoxua's voice came from the phone. "Xiaoxua, immediately tell Ji Qimei to rush to Shanghai. My body is in a bit of a condition, So I need her to take charge here, said Tanxiu. Remember, don't tell your master about this. I don't want her to worry about me. This, all right. Gu Xiaoxue replied and directly hung up the phone. 5 minutes later, a figure appeared in the room out of thin air. Ji Qimei could sense the energy fluctuations in the surrounding air. A look of disbelief was cast on her face as she hurriedly said, Lord, you and the king of hell of this world just fought. It was just a trivial matter, but I didn't expect that it would alarm the king of hell of this world. Tanxiu forced a smile. What's more, I didn't expect him to be very powerful. Even if he hasn't reached the golden immortal stage, I'm afraid he's not much weaker. It's really hard to believe. Everything in this world is different from other worlds, said Ji Qimei. You were too careless this time, my lord. Tanxiu nodded and sighed. Since it has happened and my purpose has been achieved, it can be said that I've obtained the final victory. You'll stay in Shanghai for the next week. The auction is about to begin, and I'm worried that cultivators from other forces will come to make trouble. Ji Qimei took out a holy healing pill from her interspatial ring and stuffed it into Tanxiu's mouth. Then she said, This subordinate will listen to your arrangement, my lord. Don't just give me a holy healing pill, said Tanxiu. The power in my body has been sucked dry, and I can't even lift a finger now. Give me some essence amassing pills and protect me for the time being. Understood. Ji Qimei took out the essence amassing pills and stuffed them into Tanxiu's mouth. She simply ignored the other 3 people in the room and directly sat cross-legged in front of Tanxiu, quietly protecting him. 2 whole days passed. After taking 36 essence amassing pills, Tanxiu was barely able to recover half of it. However, it would be very difficult for him to fully recover his lost life origin blood essence in a month or 2. Li Kai, her mother, and Hu Xiaoquan had already left the room 2 days ago. However, Hu Xiaoquan remembered Tanxiu's previous instructions, so the 3 of them stayed in the next room and had their meals delivered to the room. Furthermore, Li Kai and her mother had learned from Hu Xiaoquan what Tanxiu had said before. The 3 of them were very nervous, but their lives were saved, so they felt slightly relieved. Knock knock, Tanxiu took Ji Qimei and knocked on the next door. After pushing the door and entering, he saw the drowsy Hu Xiaoquan and as well as Li Kai, who was sitting cross-legged on the floor and cultivating. Are you all right, Divine Dr. Tang? Spirit was shaken as he got up to greet him and asked. I haven't fully recovered yet, but it won't affect my movements, said Tanxiu. I know your surname is Zhuang. How should I address you? My name is Zhuang Xinjia said. I don't know if Hu Xiaoquan told you anything, Zhuang Xinjia. Tanxiu nodded and said, but I need to tell you that you have 2 choices now. The first is to follow me and join my sect. Try to have as little contact with outsiders as possible in the next few decades, and go all out to cultivate. Then, wait for me to go to another world in the future. Second, you can ignore my warning. But if you have too much involvement with the outside world and have too much karma, you will be discovered by the heavenly Tao. Then, you will be obliterated by the heavenly Tao and your souls will scatter, never to be reincarnated forever. Divine Dr. Tang, my daughter and I discussed it after listening to Xiaoquan's words. We've decided to follow you and become cultivators, said Zhuang Xinjie quickly. You saved our lives, mother and daughter, so we'll definitely listen to everything you say in the future. I, Aunt Zhuang and Kai, will listen to everything you say, said Hu Xiaoquan. Now that you've made up your mind, I'll send someone to escort you to 9 Dragons Island, the Tang sect's encampment, said Tanxiu. When you get there, there will be people who will arrange your living arrangements, and there will also be people who will teach you cultivation techniques. You'll stay there for the next few days. You haven't helped me yet, Divine Dr. Tang, said Hu Xiaoquan quickly. How do you want me to help you? Asked Tanxiu. I need to fake my death to get out of here. I can't tell anyone except my father, said Hu Xiaoquan. Only in this way can I completely sever my previous life. You don't have to worry about it if it's that simple, said Tanxiu. Just follow Li Kai and the others to 9 Dragons Island. I'll make the Hu family believe that you're dead. Hu Xiaoquan hesitated for a moment before he finally nodded and said, I'll call my father and then we'll wait for your people here. You need to address me as sect master from today onward, said Tan Xiao. You're also disciples of the Tang sect from now on. You're not allowed to tell anyone about our sect without my permission. Understood. All right. The trio nodded. Divine Dr. Tang, I mean sect master. You told me before that I want to express my gratitude to you if you can save my mother, said Li Kai all of a sudden. I hope you like this gift, Divine Dr. Tang. Tan Xiao looked at the gift box handed over by Li Kai and didn't refuse it. After receiving it, he directly threw it into his interspatial ring and said, I'll accept this gift no matter what it is. It can be considered as my acceptance of your kind intentions. Won't you open it and have a look? Asked Li Kai hesitantly. Tan Xiao stared blankly for a moment before he immediately smiled and said, Since you want me to open it now, then I'll have a look. He took out the gift box from his interspatial ring and slowly opened it. His expression immediately froze when he saw the item inside. A crystal clear and lifelike jade pig. With his current strength, Tan Xiao could easily sense the energy fluctuations inside the jade pig. This is the jade pig of the 12 zodiac jade carvings. Tan Xiao was excited inwardly. He looked at Li Kai again and said, I like this gift very much, Li Kai. It's something I really need. Thank you. Li Kai immediately looked happy after hearing it and said, Tang, sect master, it's good that you like it. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and said, All right, I'll head back first since your matter has been resolved. You just need to wait here, and someone will come to take you away later. Chapter 1187. Tan Xiao left the Blue Starfish Mansion with Ji Qimei. When he returned to the Blue Star Villa complex, Kong Xia, Mu Weining, and Ouyang Lulu were anxiously discussing something in the villa's hall. When they saw Tan Xiao's return, they immediately rushed to him. Are you all right, Tan Xiao? How did you disappear for 2 days, Tan Xiao? We personally went to the Blue Starfish Mansion to look for you, but we couldn't find you. Where have you been these 2 days? We were very worried about you. Tan Xiao looked at the 3 women who revealed their true feelings, and suddenly felt that it was a good feeling to be remembered. After gently comforting the 3 women, he slowly said, I've actually been in the Blue Starfish Mansion all this time. But I couldn't be disturbed by the outside world because I had to treat a patient, so I asked Ji Qimei to guard me. All right, I'm back now, so let's not talk about this matter anymore. Let's talk about the current situation in Shanghai. The auction is getting closer and closer, so I'm sure there should be a lot of super rich people coming to Shanghai, right? Of course, there will be a lot of them, said Ouyang Lulu first. The entire Shanghai is now on high alert and the security level has been raised to the highest. You don't know this, dear, but all the 4-star and 5-star hotels in Shanghai have been occupied by rich people from all over the world, as well as those from other cities in China. Even our Paradise Manor has long been full of people. I've been staying in the Genesis auction house for the past 2 days, said Kong Xia. Hao Lei has received more than 1,600 requests to participate in the auction. There's only 1 day left before the deadline, so I'm sure there will be another surge of applications before 12 o'clock tomorrow night. Hao Lei also predicted that the number of rich people participating in the auction will be more than 2,000 people. Have you investigated everything? Asked Tan Xiao. What about the identity and wealth of those who want to participate in the auction? Kong Xia nodded and said, I've investigated everything. The amount of liquid funds available to each of them is fully in line with our requirements. Moreover, each of them has paid 1 million in admission fees, so we've already earned more than 160 million just from the admission fees alone. Tan Xiao smiled and said, It's a bit beyond my expectations. But the more tycoons there are, the more it proves that our auction can shake the whole world. At that time, not only will our auctioned items make a lot of money, but the Genesis auction house will also become famous and become a money-making machine in the future. The next day, Tan Xiao arrived at the Genesis auction house with Ji Qimei. Just as he stepped through the door, he was squeezed to the side by 4 men and women. One of them, a sturdy Caucasian man, fiercely glared at Tan Xiao before speaking to the registrar at the registration counter. We want to participate in the auction. Here's the 4 million entrance fee. These 4 cards were international black cards, and each card had $200 million US. Hurry up and register our names and go through the procedures for us. Alright. Please wait a moment. The registrar replied politely. Standing behind the 4 men, Tan Xiu's eyes swept over their backs as he sent a voice transmission to Ji Qimei. This auction has unexpectedly attracted these demons and monsters. Interesting. It seems that they have a lot of wealth. They're indeed aliens. I can smell the scent of wild beasts on them, replied Ji Qimei. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and said, "Those who come are our guests. Whether they are aliens or not, we'll accept them as long as they come to give us money. However, you'll need to stay here for the time being. Don't show mercy to anyone who dares to snatch our auction house's items. Capture them first and interrogate them about their background. If they dare to be arrogant, kill them immediately." I understand. Ji Qimei nodded. Tan Xiu waved his hand to indicate that Ji Qimei was free to do as she pleased. Then he went straight into the auction house and took the elevator to the 3rd floor. As the elevator door opened, Tan Xiu saw Hao Lei waiting outside. "Sect Master." Hao Lei respectfully greeted him. "Did anything happen in the past 2 days?" asked Tan Xiu. "No. Everything went smoothly." Hao Lei shook her head. "I've called Ji Qimei to come here, so you don't need to worry about anyone coming to make trouble." Tan Xiu nodded. "Also, you must prepare in advance the process of the auction, as well as the things you need to prepare for the auction. If you don't know much about it, just invite the world's most famous auction house members. Even if you have to spend money, you must find a powerful host. Yesterday, Ouyang Lulu invited the most famous gold medal host of the Red Spider auction in Las Vegas, M Country." Hao Lei smiled and said, "This gold medal host is very strong. I've watched the auctions he presided over. He's very powerful and always gets a huge harvest." Ouyang Lulu. Tan Xiu was astonished. How does she know this powerful host? A strange expression appeared on Hao Lei's beautiful face. She covered her mouth and chuckled. "I've also asked Ouyang Lulu about this. She told me that she once had a fight with this gold medal host. The result was that they were evenly matched and no one got the upper hand. Thus, they gradually became friends after a fight. It's said that this gold medal host traveled to Jingmen Island a few years ago and encountered some troubles there. It was Ouyang Lulu who helped him solve all his troubles and personally accompanied him for a few days." Tan Xiu suddenly understood and said with a smile, "Lulu is someone who would do such a thing given her character. Anyways, let's go to your office and have a chat." Hao Lei nodded and was about to take Tan Xiu to her office when her mobile suddenly rang. A few seconds after she answered it, her expression slightly changed. She quickly looked at Tan Xiu and said, "Sect Master, some people are making trouble downstairs. I heard they're about to fight." "Who are they?" asked Tan Xiu with a frown. "The people downstairs don't know their identities," said Hao Lei. "Let's go down and have a look since we've bumped into them," said Tan Xiu. "Even if the Heavenly King himself comes, he must behave himself and act according to the rules of our auction house." On the 1st floor, 4 men and women stood in front of the registration desk, glaring at a man and a woman in front of them. A disdainful look flashed in the burly man's eyes as he stared at the man in front of him and said, "And Xionghu, you're just an eggless trash. Don't hide behind a woman if you have the guts. I've long wanted to deal with you. If it weren't for this woman protecting you, I would have twisted your head off and turned it into a wine pot." And Xionghu's complexion was a bit pale. He turned to look at the coquettish woman beside him, and then lowered his head in silence. Beside him, the gorgeous woman looked angry and glared at the seemingly cowardly Xionghu. Then, she looked at the 4 people in front of her and coldly snorted, "Shut your stinky mouths if you don't want to lie on the sickbed for a few more months. I'm in a good mood today, so I don't want to bicker with you. Else, I'll make you look good if you really piss me off." The big Caucasian man was obviously a bit afraid of this woman. After humming twice he said, "Anglo, this woman was the one who seriously injured you, wasn't she? If it were up to you, don't just stay silent. The 4 of us will join hands and directly cripple her. If the Grand Elder blames us, the 4 of us will bear the consequences together." I'm sure we won't be punished too heavily even if the Grand Elder blames us given our status. The man called Anglo shook his head and said, I'm here for the pills and weapons, not to stir up trouble. Do it yourself if you want to kill them. However, I must warn you in advance that one of the shareholders of the Genesis auction house is the Magnificent Tang Corporation. What the Magnificent Tang Corporation hates the most are foreigners who spend their money to make trouble for their country. I'm sure you've heard about what happened in Star City more than a month ago. If you really don't want to participate in the auction, then do it directly. Upon hearing this, the big Caucasian man immediately spat at the glamorous woman and sneered. I won't clean you up today. But just you wait. After the auction is over, the four of us will teach you a good lesson. We'll let you know that all the men in the world are much stronger than your cowardly companion. You're courting death. The glamorous woman instantly stepped forward and swept a sharp dagger across the big Caucasian man's neck, causing blood to slowly ooze out. The big Caucasian man didn't expect that the woman would actually attack him without saying a word. Had it not been for him dodging fast enough, his head would have been removed by now. Stinky bitch. The big Caucasian man was very hot-tempered, and was like a barrel of dynamite that would explode at the slightest spark. Along with the release of a huge aura, he instantly dashed to the front of the glamorous woman. The golden glove on his right fist instantly blasted out dozens of golden fist shadows. His curses were particularly loud and clear. BM, a hazy figure appeared. In nearly the blink of an eye, the big Caucasian man and the glamorous woman were directly blasted away. Tan Xiu clapped his hands and overbearingly said, It has nothing to do with me if you fight to the death in other places. But don't blame me for being ruthless if you want to run amok in my Genesis auction house. Register immediately and get the hell out of here. The big Caucasian man and his companion were shocked and intimidated by Tan Xiu's terrifying strength. They hesitated for a moment, but eventually gave up on retaliating and left in a somewhat embarrassed manner. The glamorous woman, on the other hand, looked a bit pale. Her beautiful eyes kept lingering on Tan Xiu's body. He was definitely a young man, yet he was able to send her and the big Caucasian man flying. His strength was truly terrifying. Tan Xiu glared at the glamorous woman and said in a deep voice, Why are you still staring blankly? Hurry up and register, and get the hell out of here. Come again when the auction starts. What's your name, handsome? Asked the glamorous woman. I'm the owner of the Genesis auction house. You can call me Tang, said Tan Xiu indifferently. 5 explosive chapters. Please follow the WeChat public account Quiet Night Thoughts. I'm begging for a monthly vote. Chapter 1188. The woman stared blankly for a moment before a surprised look appeared on her face. She originally thought that Tan Xiu was only a security guard of the Genesis auction house due to his young age. She didn't expect that he turned out to be the owner of the auction house. He's not simple at all. The thought flashed in the woman's mind. She immediately bowed slightly and said, Since Boss Tang personally came forward, then I won't bicker with this little wolf cub. Anyways, may I have the honor to invite you to dinner tonight, Boss Tang? In a flash, Angelo's complexion changed, and a bit of humiliation finally appeared in his eyes. He growled in a low voice, Senya. The gorgeous woman indifferently glanced at Angelo and lightly said, It's a great honor to have dinner with Boss Tang. You can go back to sleep if you don't feel good about it. What do you mean? Angelo angrily asked. Tan Xiu secretly shook his head and raised his hand. You two forget it. I still have something to do tonight, so I'm afraid I can't accompany you to dinner. Both of you, if you're done registering, you may leave. Having said that, intense killing intent flashed in his eyes in an instant, and he said in a deep voice, The rules of the Genesis auction house state that no one is allowed to fight or cause trouble here. Otherwise, it's equivalent to going against the Genesis auction house. No one can afford the consequences. That's right. The short-lived storm ended after Tan Xiu revealed his strength, but the matter spread at an extremely fast speed. In just a few hours, all the rich and powerful people from all over the world knew about it. Therefore, many rich and powerful people began to send people to investigate, and finally determined that the owner of the Genesis auction house was the owner of the Magnificent Tang Corporation. Tanxiu. Even the news that Tanxiu was a cultivator also spread out. Following that, wealthy people from all over the world sent invitations to Tanxiu one after another, hoping to invite Tanxiu to dine with them. It could be said that their intentions were obvious. Their purpose was nothing more than to befriend Tanxiu. It would be best if they could obtain more benefits from this auction. After rejecting all of them, Tanxiu didn't even return to the Blue Star Villa complex. Instead, he squatted in the Genesis auction house every day. In addition to cultivating, he also took advantage of the last few days to craft several exquisite gadgets. These gadgets were almost all accessories, and they were of no help to a cultivator in improving their strength. However, they had some effect in combat, and that was defense. December 1st. At 6 o'clock in the morning, when Tanxiu appeared on the roof of the Genesis auction house, Jiqime was already standing there quietly watching the flow of people at the entrance. More than 2,400 people. Every registered tycoon could only bring one underling, which meant that there were more than 4,800 people participating in the auction. Because the auction hall was very large, it could accommodate 5,000 to 6,000 people. Therefore, the number of people participating in the auction was acceptable. Lord, is it time to open the door? Jiqime turned around and asked. It's time to open the door. Tanxiu nodded and said, but this auction is very important, so I need you to use your spiritual sense to observe who brings weapons here without permission. I've used my spiritual sense to observe. Most of these people are armed, and a small number of them are carrying magic treasures, said Jiqime. I'm afraid it will be troublesome if they are prohibited from bringing weapons into the auction hall. Tanxiu thought for a while, and immediately forced a smile. Since there's no way to ban them all, then forget it. If anyone dares to make trouble in the auction, just kill them directly. After saying that, he took out his mobile phone, dialed Hao Lei's number and said, open the door and verify their identity. Then let everyone enter the auction hall according to their number plate. Do remember to seriously tell them that anyone who doesn't sit according to their number plate will be expelled from the auction hall once found out. Understood. Hao Lei replied. After hanging up the phone, she quickly appeared at the auction house's entrance. As dozens of strong men took control of the scene, Hao Lei said in a deep voice, everyone will verify the number plate you received when you registered. Once you pass the verification, you can enter the auction hall. Also, please take your seat according to your number plate. If anyone sits in someone else's seat, our staff will find out and expel them from the auction hall. 2 hours later, more than 4,800 people entered the auction hall in an orderly manner. Spacious sofas were placed in rows, with small wooden cabinets between each sofa with drinks, fruits, and snacks placed on them. At the innermost side was a 2-meter-high, 100-square-meter auction stage. Behind the auction stage was a huge projector that played the advertisements of the magnificent Tang Corporation and Grand Fortune Jewelry. At 8 o'clock sharp, Higgert, the gold medal host invited by Hao Lei and Ouyang Lulu from the M Country's Red Spider auction house in Las Vegas, boarded the auction stage with a smile. He had blonde hair, blue eyes, and a tall and straight figure. His suit made him look very handsome. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the mysterious and beautiful ancient country of the East, China. Welcome to the Pearl of the East, Shanghai. Finally, I would like to welcome everyone to the first auction of our Genesis auction house. I'm Higgert, and I'm the gold medal host of the Genesis auction house from today onward. I'll also be the host of this auction. I'm really excited at this moment. I've never hosted such a grand auction before, nor have I been watched by so many super rich people from all over the world. Fortunately, the items being auctioned at the Genesis auction house gave me enough confidence. Otherwise, I would have to maintain a bowing posture while talking to all the big shots. The simple opening remarks were humorous and witty, and it quickly won the favor of many people. Shortly after, Higgert announced the official start of the auction. The first auction item is a set of precious jewelry. Aside from being beautiful, this set of jewelry also has another function, one that even I'm not familiar with: defense. According to the client's instructions, any guest who wears this set of jewelry can resist a full blow from a nascent soul stage cultivator. However, the effect can only be used 3 times in the face of that level of attack. After 3 times, the set of jewelry will be scrapped. Therefore, having this set of jewelry is equivalent to having 3 more lives. The base price is $1 billion. Each bid increment must be no less than $50 million. The bidding begins now. Higgert turned to look at the beautiful staff next to him. The moment he lifted the tray, a set of exquisite jewelry appeared on the projector screen. Hua! At least 1/3 of the guests in the entire auction venue burst into an uproar. Never in their wildest dreams had they imagined that the first item to be auctioned in the first auction of the Genesis auction house would be a magical weapon refined by a martial cultivator. It was a defensive type of jewelry. Higgert was very satisfied with the reaction of the guests. In order to auction this set of jewelry at a high price, he once again said, "Ladies and gentlemen, even if you don't need this set of exquisite defensive jewelry, you can still give it to the people you care about the most, such as your wife or your children. Today's society is full of danger everywhere. I think many of you should have seen a movie called Final Destination. Danger and death may be shrouding us all the time. If you want to avoid danger again and again and live a safe and sound life, then please start the bidding. Each bid increment must be at least $50 million. $2 billion. In the audience, a Caucasian man grabbed the loudspeaker and said loudly. His eyes didn't look at the host, Higgert, nor did he look at the people around him. Instead, he stared at the projector screen and watched the set of hand gestures. $1 billion. $2 billion. 20. Although the first bidder was a Caucasian man who directly doubled the price, it still didn't stop the other bidder's impulse. Many people were well aware that Higgert was right. Having such a set of defensive magic weapons was definitely equivalent to having 3 more lives. The price soared all the way up. The soaring speed made the host, Higgert, dumbfounded. His heartbeat was even faster and fiercer than when he hosted the first auction. $4 billion. A loud shout came from the spectator seats. The one who made the bid was an old man with a head full of white hair and a walking stick in his hand. Higgert's scalp went somewhat numb. He had hosted hundreds of auctions in the past. Sometimes the amount of auction funds could exceed $4 billion. However, that was the normal auction funds. What was $4 billion now? Was it the price of the first auction item? The white-haired old man got up and held the loudspeaker in his other hand as he asked, "Mr. Host, since no one else is bidding against me, can you announce that this set of jewelry belongs to me now?" Higgert was as though he just woke up from a dream and hurriedly said, "Sir, I'm afraid you might laugh at me, but I'm really shocked by your generosity. That's why I lost my composure a bit. I hope you won't laugh at a poor man like me who has never seen much money. $4 billion. I now announce that this set of jewelry belongs to you. Please send someone to the backstage to carry out the transaction." The old man let out a faint smile. After sitting down, he nodded to a man next to him. Higgert calmed himself down and then said, "The second auction item is a divine weapon. It's said that this divine weapon has once slain a fierce beast and split a several 100-meter-high mountain. Although I feel that these rumors are somewhat exaggerated, the client told me so I can only tell you that the base price is $500 million. That's right, the client also said that this godly spear is a magic treasure, a very powerful magic treasure. Let's continue today. I'm begging for monthly votes." Chapter 1189. At the auction venue, more than 4,800 guests were all staring at the Dharma artifact spear that was being carried onto the auction stage. With the projector zooming in, thousands of cultivators were instantly envious, and their breathing became much rougher than before. In this world, any magic weapon was something that could only be found by chance. If a cultivator who was good at using long spears could get a long spear magic tool, it would be like adding wings to a tiger and doubling their combat effectiveness. $5 billion. I'll pay $5 billion. This is all the liquid funds I can use. Don't blame me for being ruthless if anyone tries to snatch it from me. I'll make the one who tries to snatch it die a tragic death." The 2-meter-tall giant man roared with bloodshot eyes. $3 billion US? Do you think I'm afraid of you? A bald man suddenly rose to his feet and roared in a stern voice. The 2-meter-tall giant man's complexion greatly changed. His killing intent surged, and his figure instantly dashed toward the auction stage like a sharp arrow. Since he couldn't buy it, he decided to snatch it even if he had to snatch it. Puff! A sword beam appeared out of thin air and slashed the giant man who was flying in midair. Immediately after, a big green net instantly unfolded and enveloped the giant man's corpse, and then pulled it and disappeared into the portal near the auction stage. Hiss! At this moment, all the guests who came to the auction got up and couldn't help but gasp. Many people present knew the giant man and knew that he was very powerful, but they didn't expect that he would be directly beheaded without even seeing the shadow of the other party. Who was it? Who could have such a terrifying strength? For a moment, everyone felt a chill on their necks and fear crazily multiplied in their hearts. Everyone was shocked and intimidated by this swift and fierce blow. Tan Xiao slowly walked out from another portal. When he came to the auction stage and came to Higert's side, he gently patted his shoulder and motioned him not to worry. Then he grabbed the microphone and lightly said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the Genesis auction house is open for business and we don't want anyone to make trouble here. If anyone dares to try to snatch the auction items through illegal means, then be prepared to die." Instantly, Duanmu Lin, who was standing in front of the first row, floated up and stood next to Tan Xiao. He nodded to Tan Xiao and took the microphone saying, "Tan Xiao is right. This is China. If you want to get something you like, then take out the money to buy it. If you want to be a robber and rob an auction item, you will have violated the laws of Wuxia. The people of Wuxia's Special Abilities Bureau will not stand idly by." More than 4,800 guests looked at each other in disbelief. They already knew that Tan Xiao was the owner of the Genesis auction house, so it was only natural for him to jump out and speak at this time. But why did someone from China's Special Abilities Bureau jump out? Could it be the Special Abilities Bureau of Wuxia is behind this auction? Originally, many cultivators had secretly decided that if they couldn't buy the item they wanted, they would directly rob it. But now, it seemed that they didn't dare to provoke Wuxia's Special Abilities Bureau, not to mention the mysterious powerhouse hiding in the dark. Otherwise, they would likely die here. Next, the auction went smoothly. Except for the first 2 items that were auctioned at sky-high prices. The following items were just some ordinary antiques, jewelry, and the prices were not that exaggerated. As the items were auctioned one after another, more than 80 items were auctioned until noon. Lunch. The Genesis auction house's standard was very high. The Everlasting Feast Hall chefs were temporarily transferred from Jingmen Island, the imperial capital, and Hong Kong to prepare a sumptuous meal. Even Tan Xiao sent someone to transfer 200 boxes of God's nectar from the magnificent Tang Corp, and provided it to all the guests for free. At 2 p.m., all the tycoons continued to participate in the auction after eating and drinking to their heart's content. The first 4 items auctioned in the afternoon were still crazily snatched and sold at sky-high prices. The first day of the auction came to an end at 8 p.m. Late at night, in the general manager's office on the 3rd floor of the Genesis auction house, when Andy, who was in charge of finance, came with the tabulated accounts, Tan Xiao, Hao Lei, Kong Xia, and even Ji Qimei looked at her with a bit of expectation in their eyes. Andy let out a faint smile and raised the accounting report in her hand. Then she smilingly said, "The data has been tabulated. We've auctioned 180 items today, and the total revenue is $46.832 billion US. Tan Xiao slowly exhaled. Although he knew that the amount of money earned today was an astronomical figure, he was still a bit excited to hear the specific figure. "I don't think the revenue will be that high in tomorrow's auction," said Hao Lei with a smile. "But I'm afraid the revenue for the auction the day after tomorrow will be unbelievable since it's the last day. I can't help but look forward to how much money we can get from the auction in the next 3 days." Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and said, "Be it the magnificent Tang Corporation or the Grand Fortune Jewelry, all of them will need to be quiet for a year after this auction. All the outer disciples of the Tang sect must be mobilized to buy a lot of cultivation resources from all over the world." 3 days later, The Genesis auction that caused a sensation all over the world came to an end. All the guests who participated in the auction participated in the bidding, and hundreds of auction items were all snatched up. More than 180 billion US dollars. It was equivalent to more than 100 billion renminbi. Tan Xiu had indeed made a lot of money in this auction. The days of being troubled by money had finally come to an end. At the imperial capital, at the Tang family's ancestral residence. As soon as Tang Guosheng issued an order, all the members of the Tang family returned to the family. Even Tang Yimpeng, who wielded great power outside, also hurried back. What exactly happened? Tang Yimpeng was in a high position, and he exuded the aura of someone in power even if it was unintentional. As he asked, Tang Min, who had just arrived, shook her head, indicating that she didn't know. Suddenly, Tan Xiu seems to have arrived at the imperial capital 2 hours ago, said Tang Min. If my guess is correct, he should be discussing something with the old master now. Tang Yimpeng looked a bit surprised. After entering the room with Tang Min, he saw his father, Tang Guosheng, sitting on the sofa with a complicated expression on his old face. It was obvious that he was entangled in something. His second uncle, Tang Guosheng, and third uncle, Tang Shosheng, looked excited and their fingers slightly trembled while holding the cigarette. First uncle. Tan Xiu got up and respectfully greeted. Tang Yimpeng let out a smile and walked to Tan Xiu. He patted his shoulder and sighed. I've fantasized countless times about how far you can go in the future. Only now do I realize that I've really underestimated you. Just this auction alone has earned you trillions of wealth. I think the total income of all the banks in our country won't be as much as what you earn in a year. I've also invested a lot of things in this auction, first uncle, said Tan Xiu with a forced smile. Power is the foundation of a family, but wealth is a family's sharp weapon. Tang Yimpeng nodded. Our Tang family is getting stronger and stronger, to the point that we've become the biggest family in Wuxia. This credit is mainly due to you. The Tang family has been reduced to an ordinary family in Wuxia because of me, said Tan Xiu with a forced smile. What do you mean? Tang Yimpeng stared blankly and immediately frowned. Tang Guosheng sighed and waved at Tang Yimpeng. Then he forced a smile and said, I'll tell you later, Yimpeng. Call everyone in. I have something important to announce. Tang Yimpeng hesitated for a moment before he turned and walked to the door. There, he called all the core members of the Tang family to the room. Their eyes kept wandering back and forth between Tan Xiu and Tang Guosheng. Tang Guosheng took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Since all the core members of the Tang family are here, then I have something to announce. All of you listen to me. The Tang family's patriarch position will be handed over to Tang Yimpeng from now on, and all the trivial matters of the family will be decided by Yimpeng alone. Dad. Tang Yimpeng's expression changed and hurriedly called out. His eyes quickly glanced at his second uncle, Tang Guosheng, and third uncle, Tang Guoshou, only to find that they didn't care about it as if they already knew about it. I'm getting old, Yimpeng, said Tang Guosheng. It's time for me to hand over the family's power. Please don't blame me, father. The Tang family needs you to carry it alone in the future. As long as you can hold it for 10 years, you can pick a successor after that, and then you can be free. I'm confused by your words, Dad. Tang Yimpeng frowned. I can't blame you even if I take over the Tang family's patriarch position. This is a happy event, and I should be happy about it. Tang Guosheng forced a smile and shook his head. Then he spoke again. Now I'll announce the last order of the Tang family's patriarch. Aside from Tang Yimpeng, all the other core members of the Tang family, whether they have official positions or businesses, are to give up all of them. Arrange everything in the official circles, and leave everything in the business circle to Kong Xia of the magnificent Tang Corporation. What? What happened? This. All the members of the Tang family were dumbfounded. All of them looked at Tang Guosheng with disbelief, as if they had heard the most shocking news. Handing over power? Handing it over to the company? Did something big happen to the Tang family? Otherwise, how could it be? I'll give you 7 days. Solve all your matters in 7 days, said Tang Guosheng in a deep voice. 7 days later, all the core members of the Tang family will leave the imperial capital and China. I'm sure you all know about the 9 Dragons Island that Xiao has bought. 7 days later, all the core members of the Tang family will move to 9 Dragons Island. Henceforth, aside from Tang Yumpeng, the rest of the Tang family will no longer concern themselves with worldly affairs. All of us will focus on cultivation. Chapter 1190. 9 Dragons Island? Everyone in the Tang family wore a strange expression. Although they heard that Tan Xiao was developing in 9 Dragons Island, they didn't know what it was like there. It was just an isolated island. Even if it developed, how far could it develop? Tang Tang poked her head out and looked at Tang Guosheng asking, "Grandpa, can we not go? We still have classmates, friends, and studies in Wuxia." Tang Guosheng shifted his gaze to Tan Xiao. Tan Xiao cleared his throat and said, "It's up to you whether you want to go to 9 Dragons Island or not. The Tang family is a big family in Wuxia, but that's just the surface. There are countless cultivation families in Wuxia, and some powerful families are hidden deep in the mountains and forests. I'm a cultivator, and I want to turn my family into a cultivator family. In this world, power and wealth are just trivial things. The real great Tao is to have powerful strength. The strong can crush stars with their fists, move unhindered across the universe, live forever, and look down upon hundreds of millions of living beings. The Tang family is my family, and I want my relatives to become powerhouses. The space we're in is just a small plane among countless universes, and Earth is just a speck of dust in this small plane. The choice is in your hands. Do you want to stand in the sky and watch the scenery, or continue to be an ant among the masses? I respect your choice." As his voice faded away, Tan Xiao cast a secret technique, and a surge of power instantly formed an airtight net under everyone's feet. His figure flickered and instantly disappeared from the house. When he appeared tens of meters high in the air, all the core members of the Tang family appeared around him. Heavens! What's going on? All the members of the Tang family, including the old man Tang Guosheng, looked horrified. They were tongue-tied as they looked at the surrounding scene and the house below. It was like a dream. "The legendary immortals actually exist," said Tan Xiao lightly. "I'm giving you the chance to become immortals. It's up to you whether you want to grasp it or not." "I want to become an immortal." After a brief shock, Tang Tang immediately clenched her fists in excitement and shouted. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile, and instantly returned to the house with all the core members of the Tang family. Then he said, "Uncle, I'll teach you cultivation techniques and provide you with a steady stream of cultivation resources, but the Tang family will have to rely on you. I can guarantee you that even if you were the only member of the Tang family in the entire Wuxia country, our country wouldn't dare to do anything to you. Even if some people wanted to do something to you, you wouldn't even need to do anything. Someone would take care of them for you." "Who?" Tang Yumpeng asked in a deep voice. "Duanmulin Special Abilities Bureau," replied Tan Xiao with a faint smile. Tang Yumpeng immediately looked ecstatic upon hearing this. He nodded repeatedly and said, "I don't want to stay here, Xiao. I also want to go to 9 Dragons Island to cultivate. But I'll stay here since you and the old man have decided. However, you must help me when I need your help." "Don't worry. As long as I, Tan Xiao, am alive, the Tang family of Wuxia will never fall." Tan Xiao chuckled. "I'll send one of them back to Wuxia 10 years later to take over your responsibility. This person will be the most unsuitable for cultivation in our Tang family, and will have the slowest cultivation speed in 10 years. Tang Yumpeng's eyes lit up and he immediately burst into laughter. "Great, great. You're really good, Xiao." The next day, the 3 brothers, Tang Guosheng, and Tang Guoshou, left China together with their wives. No one knew when they left, nor did anyone know how they left. It was as if they disappeared into thin air. Even the guards and medical staff around Tang Guosheng didn't know about it. The 4th day, Tang Yunda, Tang Min, Tang Dong, Tang Yan, Tang Yunqing, and Tang Dong left with their wives and husbands. No one knew how they left. It was as if they disappeared into thin air in China. The 5th day, Tang Ning, Tang Ying, Tang Wei, Tang Tang, Tang Ji, and the only outsider, Chu Yi, directly disappeared from the imperial capital. The 7th day, All the loyal subordinates that the Tang family had cultivated had disappeared from the imperial capital and the Wuxia country. It was as if they had vanished from the face of the earth. Countless forces began to investigate, but they couldn't find any trace of them. At the same time, the incident that happened to the Tang family finally broke out. All the influential families in the imperial capital, as well as the big shots in China, had activated the highest intelligence network and began to go all out to investigate the whereabouts of the core members of the Tang family. However, they found nothing in the end. However, in the course of the investigation, they found out that Tang Min had resigned, Tang Yinqing had retired, and all the members of the Tang family who worked in the government had taken the initiative to resign from their posts. Afterward, all the companies controlled by the Tang family were merged into the magnificent Tang Corporation. The imperial capital, the Tang family's ancestral residence. Tang Yunpeng looked at the empty Tang family's residence. There used to be some people living here, but now it was lifeless. Except for the dozens of Tang family's martial artists who stayed to protect him, and 2 foundation establishment stage experts from the Tang sect, there was no one else. Knock, knock, the door was knocked. Zhu Jianhua, Tang Yunpeng's secret technique, quickly came to his front and reported, "Patriarch, there's a guest." Tang Yunpeng frowned and said, "How many waves has it been today? I'm tired after dealing with it all day." "Tell him that I'm already resting because I'm too tired." He said that he's Duan Mulin. "He said that you'll definitely meet him if I tell you his name," said Zhu Jianhua in a low voice. "Duan Mulin? The director of the Special Abilities Bureau?" Tang Yunpeng's spirit was shaken. He immediately got up and walked toward the door. When he saw Duan Mulin standing quietly under a tree in the front yard with a faint smile on his face, he hurriedly greeted him and said, "Director Duanmu, how come you're here?" Duan Mulin observed Tang Yunpeng and smilingly said, "I promised Tan Xiao that I'll personally visit your Tang family under the watchful eyes of countless people. That brat will definitely get angry if I don't come." Angry? Tang Yunpeng was shaken inwardly. He faintly realized that the relationship between his nephew, Tan Xiao, and Duan Mulin was probably not simple. Tang Yunpeng invited Duan Mulin to the house in the backyard. After taking a seat, he said, "Director Duanmu, Xiao seems to still be in the imperial capital. Have you seen him?" "No." Duan Mulin shook his head. Having said that, his eyes shifted to Zhu Jianhua, who followed him inside. Tang Yunpeng followed Duan Mulin's gaze and immediately understood what he was thinking. He waved and said, "Jianhua, get us some dishes to go with the wine, and bring those 2 bottles of God's nectar. I'm going to have a few drinks with Director Duanmu today." Understood. Zhu Jianhua realized that Duan Mulin had something to discuss with Tang Yunpeng, so he immediately nodded and left. Duan Mulin nodded and said with a smile, "Yunpeng, come to think of it, I've watched you grow up. I even held you when you were born." Cough, cough. Tang Yunpeng couldn't catch his breath and coughed a few times. Then, with an awkward expression, he forced a smile and said, "You're really someone who won't stop until you startle someone to death. How many years has it been? How come you suddenly brought this up?" "Don't you think we're very close?" asked Duan Mulin with a smile. Tang Yunpeng stared blankly, and keenly realized that Duan Mulin seemed to be showing goodwill to him. But why? He was the dignified director of China's Special Abilities Bureau. Although he didn't show his face in public, he had great power. Even if he was a high-ranking official, he had to show a smiling face in front of him. How come he suddenly came to show goodwill to him? Was it because of Tan Xiao? Tang Yunpeng slowly nodded and seriously said, "You and my father are old friends, and you have a deep relationship with Tan Xiao. You and my Tang family have a deep relationship, so it's natural that we're very close." Duan Mulin smiled with satisfaction and said, "I'm relieved since you're aware of it. You must mention me in front of Tan Xiao in the future. Also, maybe I'll need your care after many years. I need your Tang family to take care of me." "I don't quite get it, Director Duanmu," said Tang Yunpeng hesitantly. "We're already very close, so I think you should change the way you address me in private," said Duan Mulin with a meaningful expression. "Uncle Duanmu." Tang Yunpeng hurriedly said, "The Tang family will have a big plan decades later. Or rather, Tan Xiao will have a big plan. We'll be on the same side in the future. We're really on the same side. You don't need to ask about it if Tan Xiu hasn't told you about it yet. You'll naturally know about it in the future. Tang Yumping nodded without a word and said, Uncle Duanmu, I'll be frank since we're on the same side. I'm afraid I'll need your help in the next 10 years. Duanmu Lin nodded and said, I can guarantee that your Tang family's position in China won't be shaken as long as I'm still in my position. Tang Guosheng has left China, and your Tang family won't be threatened because of his departure. The reason I came here today is to tell everyone that I, Duanmu Lin, am the backer of your Tang family. Tang Yunpeng was shocked and a tempestuous storm was set off inside his heart. He had no idea how Tan Xiu was able to make Duanmu Lin say such words. Suddenly, the old man above asked me to pass a message to you. You've been in your current position for several years, so it's time for you to move. What do you think about Shanghai? Shanghai? Tang Yunping's pupils shrunk, and his body couldn't help but shiver a few times. Then he said with a serious face, Shanghai is very good. Very good. Duanmu Lin got up and patted Tang Yumping's shoulder. He then said with a smile, Prepare well. Maybe it'll be tomorrow, or maybe a few months later. All right, I've achieved my purpose of coming here today. If you see that brat Tan Xiu, remember to tell him to come to the Special Abilities Bureau's HQ to see me. All right, I'll see you off. Chapter 1191. Tang Yunpeng was very excited after seeing Duanmu Lin off, but he didn't forget about the important matter at hand. He immediately dialed Tan Xiu's number and said in a deep voice, Come back home immediately. I have something to talk to you about. Half an hour. Tan Xiu's voice came from the other side. In less than half an hour, Tan Xiu rushed back from the outside. When he saw Tang Yunpeng, he smilingly said, I heard Duanmu Lin is here? Tang Yunpeng rubbed his hands and asked, Tell me, Xiu, how did you do it? He's a bit different from before. It's nothing, actually. Tan Xiu chuckled and said, Duanmu Lin is the director of the Special Abilities Bureau, which is of great benefit to our Tang family. I just taught him a cultivation technique, gave him some pills, and promised to let him join the Tang sect after a few decades to become a real cultivator. Also, let him leave with us. Where to? Asked Tang Yunpeng hurriedly. The immortal world, answered Tan Xiu seriously. Tang Yunpeng shuddered all of a sudden and exclaimed in shock. The immortal world? A world where martial cultivators can ascend to the end of their cultivation? That's right. Tan Xiu nodded. Tang Yunpeng was silent for a long while, and then seriously asked, Cultivation, what kind of place is the immortal world? Is it really like heaven like the legends say? Tan Xiu sneered and shook his head. The scenery in the immortal world is naturally like heaven, and the good things there are rarely seen on earth. But it's not heaven at all. If I must describe it and compare it to earth, it's simply hell. Tang Yunpeng opened his mouth, but he didn't know how to express himself. First, uncle, it's natural selection and survival of the fittest, said Tan Xiu. What I just said is a bit extreme, but it's not without reason. If you want to think that the immortal world is heaven, then you must have formidable power. If you're weak, then you're worse than pigs and dogs in the immortal world. There's no law there, and there's no real peace there. The immortal world was huge, 100 million times bigger than the Milky Way. There were countless races there, and countless experts could be seen everywhere. Immortals are powerful, right? Tens of thousands of immortals died every day in the world of immortals. The number of living beings that die every day is probably in the hundreds of millions. Seeing that Tan Xiu had stopped, Tang Yunpeng murmured, Then why did you bring your clansmen? Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt Tang Yunpeng and seriously said, Uncle, you must go to the immortal world if you want to become stronger and live longer. There were immortal pills and bejeweled nectar there. There were places where he could become stronger and stronger. Don't you want to live for 1,000 years, 10,000 years, or even longer? Don't you want to be able to destroy a planet with a flick of your finger and a galaxy with a punch? Uncle, the Earth is too small. Only by stepping on a higher stage can we appreciate a better scenery, continuously pursue the meaning of life, and live a wonderful life. Tang Yunpeng felt as if all the blood in his body was surging crazily. It had been many years since he had felt such hot blood. The immortal world. Power. Tang Yumpeng stared at Tan Xiao and asked in a deep voice, "How did you know about it, Xiao?" Tan Xiao took a deep breath and slowly shook his head. "It's not the right time to tell you, uncle. Please don't ask again. I'll naturally tell you everything when we set foot in the immortal world in the future. What you need to do now is to cultivate. Go all out and cultivate. I hope you can at least break through to the spirit formation stage in a few decades. All right, I'll teach you how to cultivate first since you won't be able to understand a lot of things now." Tang Yumping nodded. Late at night, Tan Xiao stepped out of the door. Just as he was about to go back to his room to rest, Tang Yumping's voice came from behind. "Xiao, Duan Mulin told me something today. He said that I'm going to move to another place soon, and that place should be Shanghai." Tan Xiao stopped and smilingly said, "Uncle, our magnificent Tang Corporation will need your care if you go to Shanghai. Wealth is the only thing we can rely on this planet. We'll have to spend a lot of money in the next 10, 20, and 30 years. Even if we have 1,000,000,000, it may not be enough." "Don't worry." In the next 3 days, Tan Xiao went to the Special Abilities Bureau's HQ and had a drink with Duan Mulin. They talked about some things and gave him a batch of cultivation resources before leaving. Afterward, he stayed in the Tang family's ancestral residence. Aside from cultivating every day, he also taught Tang Yumpeng cultivation techniques and assisted him in his cultivation. 3 days. Tang Yumpeng could already sense qi, mainly because Tan Xiao didn't hesitate to consume his own cultivation to guide Tang Yumping's cultivation. December 15th. Early in the morning, heavy snow fell without any warning. Even the weather station didn't announce that there would be snow today. Just as Tan Xiao was about to leave for Shanghai, he received a call from Bai Tao. "Tan Xiao, Qin Xiaoyang and I are at the Regent Entertainment Clubhouse. Do you want to come over?" "All right, I'll be there right away." Tan Xiao hung up the phone. He decided to see Bai Tao and Qin Xiaoyang before leaving. He didn't have many friends in the imperial capital, but Bai Tao and Qin Xiaoyang were 2 of them. Bai Tao, in particular, was someone he knew back in Jingmen Island. Due to his relationship with Long Zhengyu and Ouyang Lulu, Bai Tao helped him buy a lot of precious medicinal herbs when he first returned to Earth, which helped him a lot. He left the house and walked out of the alley. Tan Xiao stopped a taxi on the street and told the driver to go to the Regent Entertainment Clubhouse. Then he called Moe, who was in Shanghai. "What's the matter, Tan Xiao?" Moe's voice came from the phone. "Professor Mo, suspend all your work. I'll rush to Shanghai tonight. There's something important I want to discuss with you at that time," said Tang Xiao. "Do you have a big plan, Tan Xiao?" asked Moe. "His current research project is at a critical juncture. I can get good results in 2 months at most." "The next plan is very important," said Tan Xiao. "It's not only for you, but also for the entire human race. So wait for me at the Paradise Manor." All right. Moe knew that Tan Xiao was not someone who talked nonsense. Since he said that he had something important to discuss with him, then it was naturally very important. Tan Xiao hung up the phone and was about to call Duan Mulin when he suddenly heard the taxi driver say with a smile, "You youngsters really know how to have fun, little brother. A plan that will be of great benefit to the entire human race? Can you tell me about it?" Tan Xiao glanced at him and lightly said, "My plan is very simple. I'm going to build a few places in the Milky Way that are suitable for human habitation. Furthermore, we humans have been holed up on Earth for too long, so it's time for us to embark on the journey to the universe. Therefore, the entire Milky Way galaxy must be developed, and humans must also begin to build an interstellar fleet to protect our homeland." Puffed. The taxi driver couldn't help but burst into laughter. He patted the steering wheel and smilingly said, "Little brother, you're really awesome. I've seen people who can brag, but I've never seen anyone who can boast like you." Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and didn't explain his plan. How could this taxi driver understand it? At the Monarch Entertainment Club, Chun Haoran had a cigarette dangling from the corner of his mouth, and 2 beautiful girls in his arms as he looked at Qin Xiaoyang with a provocative expression. Around him were 5 young men with extraordinary bearings. They crossed their arms and looked at the livid and silent Qin Xiaoyang. I'll give you half a month, surname Qin. If you don't sign this contract within half a month, I guarantee that you won't be able to stay in the imperial capital anymore. Even your old man won't be able to stay in the imperial capital anymore. Let's wait and see if you don't believe me, said Chen Haoren with a smile. Do you really think I'm afraid of you, Chen Haoren? Qin Xiaoyang indifferently said. Do you really think I'm afraid of you, Chen Haoren? My Qin family is small and I don't believe your Chen family can still have a foothold in the imperial capital if we go all out. Chen Haoren's expression changed and he said in a heavy tone. Qin Xiaoyang, you used to have Chu Yi and Tang Wei at your side to support you, and your Qin family also hugged the thigh of the Tang family. But now the Tang family is almost finished. I don't know who they offended, but all of them have disappeared without a trace. Who are you counting on? Who else do you have to back you up? I'll support him. Bai Tao came from the distance with a cigarette dangling from his mouth. He looked at Chen Haoren and the 5 youths with an indifferent expression and lightly said, let alone the fact that the Tang family has yet to be defeated, they're still my Bai family. Qin Haoren and the rest of you. Xiaoyang is my friend. Don't blame me for being ruthless if you dare to provoke him. Qin Haoren looked at Bai Tao with dread in his eyes. After a moment of silence, he indifferently said, Bai Tao, are you sure your Bai family can go against our 6 families? There's no need for the Bai family. I alone can annihilate your 6 families. Tan Xiao came out from the corner more than 10 meters away. He looked at the pairs of eyes that were cast at him. His eyes then fell on Chen Haoren and lightly said, if you dare tell me your origin, I guarantee your family will be removed from the imperial capital overnight. Do you believe me? Tan Xiao? Qin Haoren's pupils shrunk and disbelief filled his eyes. Except for Tang Yunpeng, all the members of the Tang family had disappeared without a trace. He didn't expect to see Tan Xiao here. The Tang family. It was a behemoth that once pressed the hearts of countless people. As long as the Tang family existed, none of the families dared to be enemies with them. And Tan Xiao was the most beloved grandson of the Tang family's patriarch. He had done many things that caused a sensation throughout the country. Qin Haoren didn't dare to contradict Tan Xiao no matter how courageous he was. Tan Xiao is bullshit. The members of the Tang family have either resigned or gone missing. Even the family's business has been merged into the magnificent Tang Corporation. Why are we afraid of him? A disdainful look appeared in the eyes of a youth. He was very dissatisfied with Tan Xiao for spouting nonsense in front of him. His words were full of sarcasm. Chapter 1192. A cold glint flashed in Tan Xiao's eyes as killing intent instantly formed. His figure flashed and fiercely slapped the youth's face. When the youth was sent flying backward and heavily fell to the ground, Tan Xiao followed him and stepped on the youth's face, coldly saying, Tell me, which family are you from in the imperial capital? The youth lost several teeth from the slap and half of his face was swollen. At this moment, his cheek was stepped on by Tan Xiao and he couldn't get up no matter how hard he struggled. The stifling anger nearly made him lose his mind as he fiercely roared. Bastard! I'm from the Su family. Tan Xiao, you bastard! Get your foot off me. Your Tang family is no longer the Tang family you once were. Are all your people dead? Let me go, else I'll take your life. Tan Xiao fiercely kicked the youth's belly and kicked him to Chen Haoren's feet. Then he coldly said, He should be a dead man by right. However, I'm very unwilling to kill him like this. So I'll hand him over to you. Make him stay with you for 2 days. Else, his family's fate will be the same as yours. After saying that, he then looked at Bai Tao and Qin Xiaoyang and lightly said, Prepare the dishes and wine. I'll invite you to watch the show tonight. Humph. My Tang family has important things to do, so they have to leave China temporarily. But if they think that my Tang family has no one left, then they're gravely mistaken. Just by myself, I can easily destroy an entire family. Qin Xiaoyang watched Tan Xiao's means and secretly felt relieved, so he said in a deep voice, I'll immediately order my men to prepare the best dishes and wine. We'll make sure they're full today. Chen Haoren looked at Tan Xiao in a daze. He recalled a lot of legends about Tan Xiao. Although he wasn't 100% sure about many things, He was still very clear that even without the Tang family's protection, Tan Xiu was already a powerful character. Not to mention anything else, just the magnificent Tang Corporation alone was not what it used to be. However, if the Tang family really collapsed, then it would be quite difficult for an ordinary businessman like Tan Xiu to keep the magnificent Tang Corporation. Even if the magnificent Tang Corp had a huge scale and solid capital, it would not be able to do so. Since ancient times, commoners had never fought with officials. No matter how successful a merchant was, he would have to retreat in the face of a big shot in the bureaucracy. If there's a chance, greed sprouted in Chen Haoren's heart. He glared coldly at Tan Xiu. Then, he and the rest of the gang carried the beaten-up comrade, and quickly left the Emperor Entertainment Club. Tan Xiu took out his cell phone and dialed a cell number saying, "Senior Duanmu, we've decided to kill the chicken to warn the monkeys according to our previous agreement. The first one is the imperial capital's Su family, and the second one is the appearance of a family that covets the magnificent Tang Corporation in the future." "All right." Duanmu Lin's voice came from the phone. In the evening, the Su family's courtyard was bustling with noise and excitement. This was because an elite disciple of the Su family had recently been promoted. So many people in the family were celebrating for him and congratulating him for his future promotion. Su Xiangdong, the head of the Su family in the imperial capital, was 80 years old this year. After struggling and working hard for more than half of his life, his family had flourished with many children and grandchildren. Precisely speaking, there were now 4 generations living under the same roof. He had 3 sons and 2 daughters. The one who had just been promoted recently was his youngest son, Su Dinghua. At such a young age, he was already the deputy mayor of a city in a province, with the word executive added in front of it. Dinghua. There are only a few people in our Su family who have stepped into the bureaucracy. Although your eldest brother is now in a high position, he's only a departmental leader. Your second brother doesn't want to be an official and ran to run a business. Although he's doing well, I'm not optimistic about him. As long as I'm alive, and as long as your eldest brother is still in his position, you'll have a huge backer. Therefore, work hard. Our Su family has always been a second-rate family in the imperial capital. I hope that I can see our Su family squeeze into the first-rate families in the imperial capital in my lifetime. I'll definitely work hard, Dad. Su Dinghua nodded. Recently, several friends of mine are preparing to invest in the area under my jurisdiction because of me. As the main person in charge of attracting investments, it won't be difficult for me to go further as long as I can make some achievements. Su Xiangdong happily said, "The resources of our Su family will be tilted to you as much as possible in the future. Therefore, you must do your job well and advance step by step. You must go further than your eldest brother in the future." "I'll definitely work hard," said Su Dinghua with a smile. Suddenly, a middle-aged man rushed in from outside the door. When he came before Su Xiangdong and Su Dinghua, he whispered, "Something is wrong, Patriarch." Su Xiangdong furrowed his brows and asked, "What's wrong?" "A lot of strangers have appeared in the vicinity of our Su family's courtyard since an hour ago," said the middle-aged man. "They seem to be casually strolling around or doing some things, but they're always observing our Su family's courtyard. I sent Xiaolong out to scout the situation, but they haven't come back until now after they lured them away." Su Xiangdong's expression slightly changed and he asked in a deep voice, "Then you go and ask them who they are. Arrest them directly if you find them suspicious." "Understood," the middle-aged man replied and strode out of the room. A few minutes later, the middle-aged man came to the front of the 2 youths along with 4 ruthless men with good skills. He looked at the other party's gaze and asked in a deep voice, "Who are you? Why are you spying on my Su family?" The 2 youths exchanged glances and one of them lightly said, "I don't know what you're talking about. We just had dinner and strolled around here to digest our food." "Dishonest." The middle-aged man coldly snorted and said, "Arrest the 2 of them. Give them a good lesson if they don't tell the truth." "Understood," the 4 big men replied and moved to arrest the 2 youths. "Rebellion. The Su family is rebelling. The Su family is committing treason. Damn bastards." The 2 youths quickly retreated and then roared loudly. Immediately after, figures appeared in the surroundings. Their speed was extremely fast, several times faster than ordinary people running at full speed. As soon as they appeared, they immediately attacked the middle-aged man and the 4 big men. In just a few breaths, the middle-aged man and the 4 men were all severely injured and fell to the ground unconscious. Creak! 4 black cars quickly stopped in front of the Su family's gate. As the doors were opened by the big men, Duan Mulin and Tan Xiu got out of the cars. Duan Mulin wore an indifferent expression as he looked at the 6 big men in front of the Su family's gate. Then he said in a deep voice, "The Su family has committed treason and openly attacked the Special Abilities Bureau's people. Storm the Su family's courtyard and arrest them all. You're allowed to behead anyone who resists." Understood. Dozens of experts from the Special Abilities Bureau rushed to the courtyard gate. The 6 Su family experts standing at the gate quickly exchanged glances and tried to stop them, but they were easily dealt with by the Special Abilities Bureau's experts. For a moment, the entire Su family's courtyard was in chaos. It was a complete mess. In the innermost courtyard, Su Xiangdong and Su Dinghua had already come out. Their complexion greatly changed when they saw dozens of Special Abilities Bureau experts rushing inside. Following Su Dinghua's roar, all the Su family's guards appeared and quickly rushed toward the Special Abilities Bureau's experts. Fight! Fight! The entire Su family became more chaotic, and the smell of blood was getting thicker. In just a few minutes, at least dozens of Su family's guards were killed by the Special Abilities Bureau's experts. Stop! All of you stop! Su Xiangdong's complexion changed. He could see that the enemies who rushed into his house were very strong, so strong that he trembled. What made him feel that the situation was far from good was that several of those enemies had already used their special abilities. That's right. It was their special abilities. Nearly all the ability users in China belonged to the Special Abilities Bureau. He had a vague feeling that the people who attacked his family were people from China's Special Abilities Bureau. Duan Mulin and Tan Xiu slowly walked into the backyard. Seeing that both sides had stopped fighting, a sneer appeared on Tan Xiu's face. "Patriarch Su?" asked Tan Xiu lightly. Su Xiangdong's complexion slightly changed when he saw Tan Xiu. His old body secretly trembled when he saw Duan Mulin, and a horrified look appeared in his eyes. He knew Duan Mulin's identity, and also knew that his guess was correct. Those who attacked his Su family's guards were people from the Special Abilities Bureau. Director Duanmu. Su Xiangdong clenched his fists and then quickly loosened them. A wry smile appeared on his old face as he said, "Director Duanmu, do you really need to put on such a show of force with your presence? If anyone in my family has offended you, you can come here alone. My family won't dare to go against you, Director Duanmu. Your Su family colluded with foreign forces and posed a huge threat to China's public security, Su Xiangdong," said Duan Mulin indifferently. "We even received a secret report saying that you, Su Xiangdong, have committed treason. I didn't believe it at first, but your Su family attacked our Special Abilities Bureau's people as soon as we came to investigate. It seems that the intelligence is correct. Everyone in your family deserves to die." "Treason?" Disbelief filled Su Xiangdong's eyes as he exclaimed, "Director Duanmu, you can eat indiscriminately, but you can't speak irresponsibly. My Su family has always been law-abiding, so how can we betray our country? I think there must be some misunderstanding here." Duan Mulin looked at Tan Xiu and gave Tan Xiu a look. Tan Xiu nodded without a word. His lips moved and he sneered, "Patriarch Su, it's not up to you to say whether your family has betrayed your country or not. It's up to me to say it." Su Xiangdong's complexion changed, and he stared at Tan Xiu. After carefully observing him several times, he slowly said, "Are you Tan Xiu of the Tang family? It seems that your eyes aren't that bad since you can recognize a nobody like me." Tan Xiu lightly smiled. "That's right, I'm Tan Xiu of the Tang family. Is there any enmity between my family and your family?" asked Su Xiangdong. Chapter 1193. A smile appeared on Tan Xiu's handsome face after hearing this. He shook his head and said, "There's no enmity between the Tangs and the Sus. Your family isn't worthy of it." Since there's no enmity between us, why are you? Su Xiangdong angrily retorted. Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt him and coldly said, "There's no enmity between the Tangs and the Sus. But I have a grudge with your grandson, Su Xiaoguang. He said that all the people in my family are dead, and that my family is no longer the same as before. That's why I want to let your family know that there are still people in my family." Su Xiangdong finally understood that the reason why Tan Xiu came here with such great fanfare, and even colluded with the Special Abilities Bureau, was because his grandson had offended him. But was there a need to use such a force to deal with the conflict between youngsters? Was there a need to accuse his family of treason? Suddenly, he realized something and his pupils shrunk as he involuntarily exclaimed, "Tan Xiu, are you going to kill the chicken to warn the monkeys?" Tan Xiu gave a thumbs up and praised. No wonder the Sus can stand tall in the imperial capital for decades. Patriarch Su is really wise. It's a pity that your descendants didn't live up to expectations and brought disaster to your family. You can just wait to die now that things have happened. Duan Mulin slowly raised his hand. Wait. Su Xiangdong's expression changed and he shouted, "I know your purpose, Tan Xiu, but please give the Sus a way out. If that unfilial son of mine, Su Xiaoguang, has offended you, I can hand him over to you. You can decide whether he lives or dies." Tan Xiu squinted and looked at Su Xiangdong, who looked like he had aged several years in a flash. Then he lightly said, "It's not impossible if you want to sue for peace. If you want me to spare the lives of everyone in the Su family, we can talk about it. It's just that the Special Abilities Bureau is short on funds recently and needs to purchase various equipment. My family is willing to pay. Just name the number," said Su Xiangdong in a deep voice. Tan Xiu stretched out a finger and lightly said, 10 billion. If you want all the Su family members to survive, the Special Abilities Bureau has a funding gap of 10 billion. Hiss. Even though the Su clan was wealthy, Su Xiangdong couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air when he heard Tan Xiu's sky-high price. 10 billion. His Su family was indeed able to gather so much money, but once he took out so much money, the Su family's vitality would be greatly damaged, and it would be difficult for them to recover without a few decades. What to do? Su Xiangdong's expression kept changing, and he finally said in a deep voice, "No problem. My Su family is willing to fork out 10 billion yuan to fund the Special Abilities Bureau." Tan Xiu gave a thumbs up and praised, "Patriarch Su, you're really flexible. You're really good." The second condition was that the Su family's Su Dinghua was old and no longer suitable to mix in the officialdom. So let go of your responsibilities and be an ordinary citizen. You. Su Xiangdong looked like he had eaten 10,000 dead flies and his face was extremely unsightly. Although the Su family had a lot of people, there weren't many juniors with potential. Su Dinghua was the future hope of the Su family, and he was counting on his son to go further in the future. It would be best if he could become a governor. If he were to resign, the Su family's future path would be more difficult, and it would be even more difficult for them to recover to their current situation. I promise you. Su Dinghua, who was at the side, clenched his fists tightly, his nails digging deep into his flesh and blood dripping down from his fingers. All members of the Su family are to stay at home for the next 6 months, and are not allowed to step out of the house, said Tan Xiu lightly. I promise you. Su Xiangdong's voice was nearly squeezed out from his throat. My last request is that Su Xiaoguang must be punished since he made a big mistake. Tan Xiu sneered. I don't want him to stand and offend people in the future. Puff. Su Xiangdong spurted out a mouthful of blood. He would have fallen to the ground if it wasn't for Su Dinghua's quick reflexes to support him. I'll break his legs with my own hands. Su Xiangdong's face was ashen after he finished speaking. If that's the case, then I'll wait for your promise. Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction. I don't care how arrogant your Su family is, nor do I care how powerful the other families are. Today, I'll let everyone in the country know that my Tang family still has people. Having said that, he nodded to Duan Mulin and cupped his fists. Senior Duanmu, this matter has been resolved, so let's give the Su family a way out. Don't worry. If the Su family dares to make an enemy of my Tang family in the future, my Tang family will exterminate them without leaving a single chicken or dog alive. I don't want to interfere in your family's struggle, said Duan Mulin lightly. But remember to do it secretly if you exterminate the Su family. Don't let me know about it. Don't worry. Tan Xiao chuckled. I was able to get rid of the Yao family in the past, so the Su family is nothing to me. Duan Mulin nodded and looked at Su Xiangdong with a pitiful expression. Then he shouted in a deep voice, all members heed my order. Evacuate immediately. In just a minute, all the members of the Special Abilities Bureau evacuated the Su family's courtyard. Duan Mulin and Tan Xiao didn't stay any longer and left by car. The Su family was in big trouble. In just 2 hours, the news had spread out through various channels and was known by all the families in the imperial capital. Even some of the more powerful families in the other provinces of Wuxia knew about this matter. The Tang family still has people. The news was like a gust of wind that quickly spread to the ears of all the powerful people in China. Even the biggest boss could only force a wry smile after hearing it. He shook his head and no longer paid attention to it. At the Regent Entertainment Club, Bai Tao and Qin Xiaoyang sat quietly at the dining table, waiting for Tan Xiao's arrival. Both of them had the same expression and were thinking about something in silence. Ring, ring, ring. Bai Tao's cell phone suddenly rang, awakening the two of them from their contemplation. Bai Tao grabbed the phone and looked at the caller ID. After finding that it was his father, he immediately pressed the answer button and asked, "What's the matter, Dad? Have you contacted Tan Xiao recently, Tao?" I have. We just met today, and I'm waiting for him to drink at the Regent Entertainment Club. Remember this, Tur. No matter what happens to the Tang family, you must never alienate Tan Xiao. You must be on good terms with him. It's best if you can become his sworn brother. What's wrong, Dad? Did something happen? It's a big deal. A few minutes later, Bai Tao was dumbfounded when he hung up the phone. He put it on the table and stared blankly at Qin Xiaoyang, who was looking at him with a confused expression. Bai Tao's lips squirmed a few times before he forced a smile and said, "The Su family is done for. If they could be called a second-rate family in the imperial capital before, then I'm afraid they won't even be a third-rate family soon." Qin Xiaoyang abruptly got up and hurriedly asked, "What happened?" "My dad just called me. He said that Tan Xiao and a large number of people from the State Ability Users Bureau directly stormed the Su family and pinned the Su family with treason," said Bai Tao. As a result, the Su family's patriarch, Su Xiangdong, begged for mercy. Qin Xiaoyang listened to Bai Tao's words and looked incredulous. He never thought that Tan Xiao would be so powerful that he could even mobilize the people from the State Ability Users Bureau. I used to think that his biggest backer was the Tang family, but now I realize that it's not him who relies on the Tang family, but the Tang family who relies on him. I can't imagine how powerful he is now, said Qin Xiaoyang with a bitter smile after taking a deep breath. When I first met Tan Xiao, he was just a nobody who had just risen to prominence. Bai Tao nodded. I never thought that he would reach this level in just a few years. To be honest, I'm worried after hearing what he did today. How can I play with him happily in the future? Qin Xiaoyang thought for a while and said, Bai Tao, I really want to be friends with Tan Xiao. It's not just because of his identity, nor is it because of his ability. Ever since I met him, I found that he has a good character and values friendship. He's a rare friend. Therefore, I've thought it through. No matter how powerful he will be in the future, I'll keep a good attitude and make friends with him sincerely. I only care about him, regardless of his other conditions. Well said. Tang Xiao floated over and appeared in front of the duo, who only saw a blur in front of them. He gently patted Qin Xiaoyang's shoulder with his right hand and smilingly said, A true friend is always sincere and doesn't care about external conditions. Qin Xiaoyang, you're Tan Xiao's true friend and brother from now on. Qin Xiaoyang got up and patted Tan Xiao's shoulder and smilingly said, I, Qin Xiaoyang, have a lot of friends, but only a few of them are true friends. You and Bai Tao are my true friends from today onward, and there's also Chu Yi, though I don't know where that guy has been recently. But the three of you are my friends, Qin Xiaoyang. Bai Tao, thank you for today. Since we're friends, just keep your thanks to me in your stomach. Bai Tao smilingly said, Friends. Brothers. Tan Xiu had always been somewhat vigilant. He didn't dare to trust his back 100% even when facing Yuan Chuling and Long Zhenglin, who were his best friends. But today, just because of Qin Xiaoyang's words, he suddenly realized that some friends could be very pure. He should not only acknowledge this person for external conditions, but when he was in the immortal world, the few people he once regarded as his sworn brothers had too many entanglements with them. Gradually, the interests they directly intertwined with became more and more, and they were no longer as pure as they used to be. Come, let's drink. Tan Xiu raised his glass and laughed loudly. Chapter 1194. The Golden Coast Hot Spring Resort was the top hot spring resort in the imperial capital. It was a good place for the dignitaries and young masters of rich and powerful families to relax and entertain themselves. In the misty hot spring pool, Su Xiaoguang reeked of alcohol and leaned against the hot spring in a drunken manner with a Cuban cigar dangling from the corner of his mouth. Beside him, Chen Haoran's face was full of haze and a ruthless look was faintly discernible in his eyes. How much wealth do you think the magnificent Tang Corporation has now? How much wealth can we get if we get it? Suddenly Chen Haoran spoke. The other five stared blankly for a moment. Then they seemed to recall something and looked shocked. Su Xiaoguang clenched his fists and loudly said, I heard that the magnificent Tang Corporation has been crazily raking in hundreds of billions of yuan in the auction held some time ago. It may even be 1 trillion. If we can get the magnificent Tang Corporation, even if it's only a part of the company's shares, we'll become super rich and become the spokespeople of the rich. If we can get it, we'll be able to get whatever we want in the future. A devilish smile crept up on the corner of Chen Haoran's mouth as he thoughtfully said, The Tang family is no longer as glorious as it used to be. Although I don't know what happened to them, the members of their family have given up their official positions and business tycoons. They're like rats that can't see the light and hide without a trace. What does this mean? It means that the Tang family must have provoked a big trouble, so they had to give up their power, wealth, and status. Only their wealth is left, which clearly means that they're going to benefit other people in power. Haoran, I'll join you if you dare, said Su Xiaoguang in a deep voice. A smile appeared on Chen Haoran's face. Just as he shifted his eyes to the others, he saw the owner of the Golden Coast Hot Spring Resort, Zheng Dong, who also had some status in the imperial capital, nearly trotting over with 4 black-clothed big men behind him. It was as if something big had happened. Zheng Dong came to the hot spring pool and glanced at them with a complicated expression before his eyes finally landed on Su Xiaoguang's face. With a solemn expression, he said in a deep voice, Su Xiaoguang, you have 10 minutes to leave my Golden Coast Resort immediately. Also, you're no longer welcome here starting today. What? Dumbfounded, Su Xiaoguang stared blankly at Zheng Dong as though he didn't know him. In the past, Deng Dong would always nod and bow in front of him, enthusiastic like a slave. Why are you turning your back on me now? Could it be that he had offended him somehow? Chen Haoran furrowed his brows and asked in a deep voice, What do you mean, Boss Zheng? We're brothers. You're driving Su Xiaoguang away so blatantly. Aren't you driving us away as well? Zheng Dong hesitated for a moment before he forced a wry smile and helplessly said, Young Master Chen, I don't want to drive Su Xiaoguang away, either, but I don't dare not drive him away. He's in big trouble. If I let him stay here willfully, he might drag me down with him. Let me give you a piece of advice. Hurry up and cut ties with Su Xiaoguang. Otherwise, a disaster might befall you. Chen Haoran was confused. What do you mean? Zheng Dong said. Young Master Chen, haven't you heard? This Su Xiaoguang, of all people to provoke? He just had to provoke the Tang family's young master. As the saying goes, a lean camel is still bigger than a horse. The Tang family is a super rich and powerful family. Even a super family like the Yao family was eventually annihilated by the Tang family. Yet he dares to provoke the Tang family? Isn't he courting death? Alas, I won't say anything more. Surnamed Su Brat, hurry up and get out of here. Don't bring your disaster to me. We're just small businessmen, so we can't afford to play with you. Su Xiaoguang jumped out of the hot spring pool naked. But he had drunk a lot of wine last night, so he was already in a drunken stupor. He lost his footing and directly fell to the ground. Along with that scream, he sobered up a lot. Surname Deng. What the fuck did you say? Repeat it to this father. Su Xiaoguang struggled to get up and shouted angrily. Zheng Dong squinted his eyes and said indifferently, Young Master Su, don't blame me for being heartless. It's just that the enemy you've provoked is too terrifying. Let alone me, even your Su family is in big trouble this time. I dare say that your Su family won't be able to make a comeback in the next decade. You're on your own now. Su Xiaoguang struggled to get up and shouted sternly, Surname Deng, what the hell happened? Tell me clearly. Zheng Dong glanced at the small table beside the pool. His eyes then swept over the mobile phones on the table and lightly said, I'm really curious. The outside world is already in an uproar, so why are you still indifferent? Didn't anyone call you? Could it be that your Su family's patriarch dotes on you to this extent? Your family is on the verge of collapse, yet you're being ignored? My family is on the verge of collapse? Su Xiaoguang was shaken inwardly. He might be a silk pants, but he was also a smart man. He faintly realized that something big had happened through Zheng Dong's performance, and the words he said after he arrived. Immediately after, he rushed to the table beside the pool and grabbed his mobile, only to find that it had automatically shut down due to running out of battery. Therefore, he quickly grabbed Chen Haoran's mobile and quickly dialed his father's number. Who is it? An angry voice came from the phone. It's me, Dad, said Su Xiaoguang quickly. Did something happen to our family? There was no sound coming from the phone for more than 10 seconds. Just as Su Xiaoguang was feeling restless, a voice finally came through, but it was a roar. You fucking animal. You only know how to stir up trouble outside all day long. Get the hell back here. You must come back home within half an hour. Beasts. Father actually called me an animal? Disbelief filled Su Xiaoguang's eyes and his heart gradually fell to the bottom. He was now 100% sure that something had happened to his family, and it should be a huge matter. Chen Haoran's brows deeply furrowed as he walked to Su Xiaoguang's side. He took the phone from his hand and asked, What happened? Su Xiaoguang turned his head with difficulty. His eyes fell on Chen Haoran and his lips squirmed a few times, but no sound came out. In the next moment, he trembled and walked to the side of the pool. He put on his clothes and staggered outside. Go home. He needed to figure out what exactly happened to his family. While fiddling with the phone, Chen Haoran looked at Zheng Dong and inquired, Boss Zheng, your performance today made me have a whole new level of respect for you. But I believe there's a reason for it given your character. Tell me, what exactly happened to the Su family? Young Master Chen, I know you're friends with Su Xiaoguang, but you'd better listen to my advice and draw a clear line with him immediately. Don't have any connection with him in the future. Of course, if my guess is correct, I'm afraid you'll have fewer and fewer interactions with him in the future. Get to the point. Chen Haoran's expression turned cold. I don't know how Su Xiaoguang provoked the Tang family either, said Zheng Dong. In the end, Tan Xiao and a large number of ability users from the Special Abilities Bureau directly blockaded the Su family's courtyard. The Special Abilities Bureau even charged him with treason, and killed at least dozens of the family's guards. Then that Tan Xiao of the Tang family. Zheng Dong recounted the matter and finally sighed. All the rich and powerful families in the imperial capital are now aware of this matter. Not only the imperial capital, but all the influential families in China have also received the news. Although a large number of the Tang family's clansmen have gone missing, the Tang family has become even more terrifying than before. That's because the Special Abilities Bureau now stands behind them. Chen Haoran's body swayed a few times, and he nearly fell to the ground. His complexion instantly turned ghastly pale, and fear filled his eyes. This is trouble. Chen Haoran was well aware of the whole story. No one knew better than him why Su Xiaoguang offended Tan Xiao, and ultimately caused the Su family to suffer such a disaster. If it wasn't for Su Xiaoguang's interruption in the Regent Entertainment Club, he would have been the one who offended Tan Xiao. No. He seemed to have also offended Tan Xiao. Thinking up to this point, Chen Haoran's heart suddenly felt like it had fallen into an ice cave. He quickly put on his clothes, grabbed his things and ran outside. Go home. He needed to go home immediately and hurry up to tell the elders of his family about this matter, hoping to find a remedy as soon as possible. Otherwise, even if the Chen family was stronger than the Su family, they wouldn't be able to withstand the group of terrifying figures from the Special Abilities Bureau. At the Chen family's place, Chen Shuo sat in front of the old man, Chen Xintao. A wry smile hung on his usually dignified face as he said, "Dad, this is simply a hooligan act. How can the Su family commit treason? This big accusation can be casually pinched on the Su family's throat. It's too shameless. The Su family only has themselves to blame." Chen Xintao sneered. The descendants of the Su family are good-for-nothings. They cause trouble every day and bring disaster to the family. The Tang family. They still haven't figured out what happened to the Tang family yet they dare to provoke them. Isn't this a chance for the Tang family to kill the chicken to warn the monkeys? I think so too. Chen Shuo nodded. It's just that I didn't expect that the Tang family would use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. This method of striking the mountain to scare the tiger is too effective. Tang Yunpeng hasn't done anything from the beginning to the end. Tang Yunpeng is the only one left in the Tang family now, said Chen Xintao. I'm afraid he must have something very powerful in his hands. He didn't even need to do anything. Yet Tan Xiu easily brought out a mountain and directly crushed the Su family. Amazing. Truly amazing. Chen Shuo nodded and was about to speak when he suddenly recalled something. His expression slightly changed and he hurriedly said, Dad, as far as I know, Haran often hangs out with that brat of the Su family, Su Xiaoguang. You said that Su Xiaoguang offended Tan Xiu and the Tang family. Haran. Chapter 1195. Chen Xintao's expression slightly changed, and a cautious look appeared in his eyes. He then said in a deep voice, We're in troubled times now, so it's better to be safe than sorry. Call Haran immediately, and ask him if this matter has anything to do with him. Chen Shuo picked up his mobile. Just as he dialed his son Chen Haran's number, the call was directly hung up. What happened? Asked Chen Xintao. He didn't pick up and directly hung up. Chen Shuo forced a smile. Just as Chen Xintao was about to speak, he suddenly saw a figure coming in from the door. He nodded and said, Haran has come back, so I have something to ask you. Chen Haran's mouth twitched twice. He walked to Chen Xintao and knelt down, saying bitterly, I seem to have made a mistake, Grandpa. Chen Xintao and Chen Shuo exchanged glances. A bad premonition was born inside their hearts. Tell me, Su Xiaoguang offended Tan Xiu of the Tang family. Are you also involved? Asked Chen Xintao in a deep voice. Chen Haran hesitated and said, I think I also offended him, Grandpa. Chen Xintao might be old, but he was very agile in getting up. He kicked Chen Haran's chest and knocked him to the ground. Then he shouted sternly, Tell me everything that happened. Don't leave out a single word. Chen Haran's lips squirmed as he recounted the whole story. Finally, he bitterly said, It was just a small conflict between us. It was Su Xiaoguang who insulted Tan Xiu, so I didn't say anything. A cold light flashed in Chen Xintao's eyes. After pondering for a few minutes, he lit up a cigarette and took a few deep puffs, saying, transfer the family's funds to a bank card immediately. Then take Haran to the Tang family to apologize. How much money? Asked Chen Shuo hesitantly. Chen Xintao pinched the cigarette and paced back and forth a few times. Then he shook his head and said, Forget it. I'll go to the Tang family myself. Prepare 1 billion, and prepare another 2 billion as a reserve fund. At this time, the Tang family wants to kill the chicken to warn the monkey. The butcher's knife is aimed at the Su family, but we, the Chen family, can't let our guard down. We must make a gesture of apology. We must let everyone know that the Chen family has bowed down to the current Tang family. I'll get it done right away. The money will be ready in 10 minutes. Chen Shuo strode out of the room and disappeared from Chen Xintao and Chen Haran's sight. Chen Xintao took a deep breath. He looked at his grandson's pale complexion and indifferently said, Have you learned anything from this lesson? Chen Haran bitterly said, Grandpa, I understand a principle. Never be deceived by illusions and never provoke anyone. Chen Xintao finally revealed a gratified expression and nodded. Just consider this incident as a lesson to you. Spending money to avert disaster is better than never knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. Remember, there must be a reason behind this anomaly. Except for Tang Yunpeng and Tan Xiao, all the other members of the Tang family have disappeared. This doesn't mean that the Tang family has fallen. If my guess is correct, the Tang family must have a big plan. What big plan? Asked Chen Haoren. You ask me, but who am I supposed to ask? Chen Xintao shook his head. I'm afraid all the people in China with some status and background are thinking about this issue. At the Tang family's residence, Tang Yunpeng was sitting cross-legged in his room, cultivating in silence. However, as the door was knocked, he slowly opened his eyes and asked in a deep voice, "What is it?" "Patriarch, there are some people outside asking to see you." It's Chen Xintao and his grandson Chen Haoren. A secretary's voice came from outside the door. Tang Yunpeng furrowed his brows and dissatisfaction flashed in his eyes. He could ignore it if it was someone else, but Chen Xintao was, after all, the patriarch of the Chen family. His family also had a lot of power in the imperial capital, so he nodded and said, "I see. Take them to the guest room and I'll see them later." Understood. The secretary outside the door replied and then said, "Patriarch, you'd better call Tan Xiao. Something happened outside, and it's related to our Tang family." Got it. Tang Yunpeng replied and then took out his mobile phone to call Tan Xiao. After asking and listening to Tan Xiao's answer, a strange expression appeared on his dignified face. Even though Tan Xiao was not in front of him, he still gave him a thumbs up and praised. "Well done, Xiao." "I've done what I should do first, uncle," said Tan Xiao with a smile. "If you can really go to Shanghai to work, then our Tang family will have a much easier time in the future." "Duan Mulin has always been a very cautious person," said Tang Yunpeng. "Since he has already said it, then it shouldn't be a big deal. Just wait. I'm sure there will be a result soon." "That's good then." Tan Xiao smiled. "First, uncle, I'm leaving the imperial capital tonight to deal with something in Shanghai. I'm going to execute a big plan after you've settled down in Shanghai." "What plan?" asked Tang Yunpeng. "It's a secret for the time being. I'm afraid I'll need your help when you come to Shanghai," said Tan Xiao. "I'll naturally tell you the whole story when the time comes." "You're always so mysterious, kid." Tang Yunpeng laughed. "Well, since you don't want to say it now, then I won't ask. However, the Chen family's patriarch, Chen Xintao, and his grandson, Chen Haoren, coming to find me should be related to you, right?" "I don't plan to deal with them for the time being," said Tan Xiao. "If they come to apologize, then you can accept whatever compensation they want. But if they come to make trouble, then call me and I'll deal with it. Only the grandfather and grandson came here, so they should be here to apologize," said Tang Yunpeng. "All right, you go do your thing. I'm going to see them." He hung up the phone. Tang Yunpeng came to the living room. The moment he saw Chen Xintao and Chen Haoren, he saw Chen Haoren directly kneeling in front of him. "Patriarch Chen, what are you doing?" Tang Yunpeng deliberately showed a surprised expression and asked. "We're old acquaintances, Yunpeng," said Chen Xintao with a forced smile. "I heard that my good-for-nothing grandson offended Tan Xiao, so I came here personally to bring him here to apologize." "What happened?" Tang Yunpeng was confused. "It's just a trivial quarrel between youngsters, but I feel that I can't just let it go like this," said Chen Xintao helplessly. "Countless people are paying attention to the Tang family at this time, and I'm afraid that the people outside will think nonsense. That's why I brought my good-for-nothing grandson here to apologize and tell them that the Tang family is still the Tang family of the past, and even more powerful than before." Tang Yunpeng let out a faint smile and helped Chen Haoren up. Then he said with a smile, "It's just a small conflict between kids. As parents, we shouldn't care about it. Please have a seat, Elder Chen." Chen Xintao didn't directly sit down, but took out a bank card and handed it to Tang Yunpeng, saying, "Yunpeng, I know that Tan Xiao has a generous character and is a very good kid, but I can't let him suffer a loss. There's some money in this card. Consider it my Su family's apology to Tan Xiao. The password is written on the back of the card, so you have to tell Tan Xiao about it." This, Tang Yumpeng deliberately showed an awkward expression. Yumpeng, does Tan Xiao not listen to you? Asked Chen Xintao hurriedly. He dares, said Tang Yumpeng immediately. No matter what, I'm his uncle, and that brat is very honest in front of me. Chen Xintao nodded and said, that's right. It's a virtue for young people to respect their elders. Then I'll leave this matter to you. It's too late now, so we won't stay here to disturb you. Tang Yumpeng hesitated for a moment and deliberately asked, Elder Chen, won't you stay for a cup of tea? Chen Xintao shook his head and said, it's too late. I'll treat you some other time. No problem. It's my treat. Tang Yumpeng escorted Chen Xintao and Chen Haoran out of the first door, and then watched them leave. When the secretary not far away came over, Tang Yumpeng handed him the bank card and said, check how much money is in this card. Understood. A few minutes later, the secretary quickly came to Tang Yumpeng and said, there's a total of 1 billion yuan in here, Patriarch. Tang Yumpeng raised his brows and immediately said with a smile, the Chen family is really sincere. Take this card and personally deliver it to Director Duan Mulin at the Special Abilities Bureau. Tell him that this is a token of our Tang family, to buy some equipment for the protectors of the Special Abilities Bureau. This, isn't it a bit too much? Asked the secretary hesitantly. Is this 1 billion yuan too much compared to the Special Abilities Bureau's care for our family? Said Tang Yumpeng with a smile. No matter how good the relationship between Duan Mulin and Tan Xiao is, some people in the Special Abilities Bureau are bound to be dissatisfied with such a favor. Everyone in the world is bustling for benefits, and everyone is bustling for benefits. I'm afraid that everyone in the Special Abilities Bureau will shut up once we deliver this money. You're wise and farsighted, Patriarch. The news that the Chen family's patriarch, Chen Xintao, and his grandson, Chen Haoran, personally visited the Tang family to apologize was as though it had grown wings and was quickly known by countless families and forces. And it was the Chen family who spread the news. For a time, the entire circle of wealthy families in the imperial capital was in an uproar, and the big families and forces in China were also shocked. They were in disbelief and realized that the Tang family had not fallen. Although countless members of the Tang family had disappeared, the Tang family's power was still very terrifying. The next day, just as the Su family was out of luck and the storm caused by the Qin family's apology had yet to pass, another piece of news spread all over the country, and in every region of China. Tang Yumpeng of the Tang family was transferred to Shanghai to support the work. Furthermore, Tang Yumpeng's work ability was outstanding. He devoted himself to the country and the people, and also served as the Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Culture. As soon as this news came out, everyone felt their hearts sink. It was because it indicated that the Tang family now had a real backbone even without the old man, Tang Guosheng, as well as another giant. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.